Peace, love, and prosperity to all of humanity on planet Earth and Midgard. Uh, this is our second class for the Act of Algeciras, chapters 3 and 4. Last week we did chapters 1 and 2. So we left off on 3 and 4. And of course, whenever we go to the Act of Algeciras or any treaty for that matter, we always want to start with the preamble. So this is a necessary document to understand. Let me go to the because it's really giving us back the authority over the empire. Let's see. I'm looking for the beginning of the. Thought I had it already ready. Okay, here we are. Oh, stop. Okay. This is what's giving us our power back. We've been having issues as a people with police brutality, and the police, they're running around armed, right? All types of guns. They're actually kind of the military. I mean, I'm sorry, the police and the police officers, law enforcement, they're sort of militarized. They look like a lot of them, in many cases, a lot of them look like they're the military and not the police. It's like a military state or something. Is that what it's called? It's not a military state. It's I think that is what it's called. I remember back in the days, especially like with shows like Andy Griffith, they would barely have a revolver in a nightstick. Now these guys are armed with high-powered rifles, and I mean the whole nine. They look militarized. I'm saying that because articles, chapters 1 and 2 deal with the control of the police, or actually not necessarily the control of the police, but the police being under authority, and then the control of arms. So if we were exercising our authority as the Sharifian authority, then we wouldn't have problems with the police, and we wouldn't have problems with warfare. But since we acquiesced, obviously France took over, and the rest of the colonists in the United States took over after France put the pen down, and now we have these issues. And it would be easily solved by simply enacting legislation through your 3 branches of government. Establish the 3 branches of government, enact legislation. Instead, we're running around, marching around, crying and praying, begging for them to enact legislation on our behalf, i.e. affirmative action, amongst others. So I just wanted to make that point clear. This is what we're supposed to do here. This is the solution to our problems. For far too long, we've been talking about the problems, but we never talk about the solutions. And by simply focusing on the problems and nothing else, it is actually putting us in a state of mind of fear and hate. Because all we're hearing is the problems, what they've done. But we never take on the responsibility to understand what it is that we haven't done, what our obligations were. And most importantly, no one is talking about the solution. And whatever solution they are talking about, it's an incompetent solution. They Moors like to stand on the fact that the prophet said true American citizens. We're not true American citizens. We're not American and we're not citizens. We are Moroccans. I don't know why the prophet said that, but how do we know the prophet said that? Because we can show and prove in many other documents that it's quite contradictory. He couldn't have said both. He couldn't have said part and partial and part and parcel. Could have only said one or the other. He couldn't have put we are citizens of the USA on a few cards and not on others. It would have been uniform. So that kind of shows the point. Those are the reference point amongst others, many others that shows and prove that his literature has been corrupted. So when they say true American citizen, did he really say it? let's get into the preamble. I'm not going to go through all the signatory powers part. I'm just going to go straight to the more germane part, which is right here. We already know who the signatory powers are, which you see them here: King of Spain, President of the United States. That's the most important one to recognize. This one right here, the President of the United States. Let me adjust this bar here. There we go. President of the United States of America, meaning that the United States of America has signed this contract, which makes them obligated to the contract. Right? In international law, it's called Pacta Sunt Servanda. Agreements must be kept. So it begins inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. Right? So the Sultan is trying to establish order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. Why? Because of all the colonization that was taking place at the time in Morocco. Keeping in mind that Morocco was fractured at the time. So he had to come back, summon everyone back to the table, to the round table, to institute certain reforms, right? Dealing with the order, peace, and prosperity of in Morocco. What are reforms? The good brother J. Bay is going over the charter, as well as the treaty affairs, etc. And in it, you keep seeing the terms reforms. What are reforms? To make changes, right? You guys see my screen? Let me increase it. Increase the font. Make changes in something typically a social, political, or economic institution or practice in order to improve it. So make changes in order to improve it. What else do we have here? We have a chemistry definition, which you don't need. The action or process of reforming an institution or practice, right? Then here on the right, it says reforms mean the improvement or amendment of what is wrong, corrupt, unsatisfactory, etc. So that's the purpose for the reform. The empire had become wrong, corrupt, and unsatisfactory. The Sultan recognized that and decided to summon everyone to the table to institute reforms for order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. The use of the word in this way emerges in the late 18th century and is believed to originate from Christopher Wyville's association movement, which identified parliamentary reform as its primary aim. I'm not sure who Christopher Wyville is. However, that concept originates with us. So I'm just gonna assume that Christopher Wyville is a Moor. Just an assumption, because it's saying that it originated with him. Must be a Moor if it originated with him. What is "re" in the word reform? Well, there's several definitions here in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. The second note of the major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, right? However, we're going to the third definition, the fourth definition. Definition 1 of the sub 1 of definition 4 says again, anew. But then 2 also says back or backwards, reform, right? In other words, bringing things back to how it was and should be, which is order, peace, and prosperity, because obviously things got out of hand, corrupt, etc., and therefore reforms needed to be instituted in order to reestablish peace and prosperity in Morocco. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to the preamble. This bar really gets on my nerves. This Zoom bar. Okay, So it says, inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco, and recognizing that the attainment thereof can only be effected by means of the introduction of what? Reforms, right? Bringing things back anew, fixing the corruption, fixing all that's wrong with the empire. So the purpose of the Act of Algeciras was to fix that's going wrong with the empire. But the only way for that to happen, it had to go through who? The Sharifian authorities, the Maxims, the Moroccan governments. But the Moroccans and their governments were acquiescing, right? And so that's why in 1912, it was inaugurated as a power to institute these exact reforms, because the Moors were not doing it. This was our job to introduce the reforms, not no one else. Could someone mute your mics, please? So when the sovereign power is not there, well, there's another competent authority that needs to step up to the plate and make it happen. That was France, and then now it's the United States, unfortunately. Okay. All right. So means of the introduction of reforms based upon the triple principle of the sovereignty and independence. That is the establishment of the governments. Right. Your first box that you must check to establish your government, your state government. Of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains. This deals with the laws and the legislation that comes through your legislative branch to create the integrity of your domains. It's based in your laws and legislation. And economic liberty without any inequality. This is when now decolonization has taken place, when you have economic liberty without any inequality. Because now the United States, all the taxes that's been bypassing the true heirs of the land and going to the Queen and the Pope and whoever else will now recirculate itself back to us. That's what economic liberty without any inequality looks like. Islam have resolved upon the invitation of His Sharifian Majesty. So he invited all these powers, he summoned all these powers to discuss and introduce reforms for the empire to reestablish its peace, order, peace, and prosperity, right? To call together a conference at Algeciras. Keeping in mind, Algeciras is in Morocco, where you would find the kingdom. That was the seat of power at the time, the diplomatic body. Right? For the purpose of arriving at an understanding upon the said what? Reforms. The second time, this is you find the word reforms in the preamble twice, as well as examining the means for obtaining the resources necessary for their application of the reforms. So they're examining the means for obtaining the resources necessary for the application of the reforms, and have appointed as their delegates plenipotentiary the following. So now it starts naming out the parties, the parties to the international agreement called the Act of Algeciras. Those would be His Majesty the Emperor of Germany, King of Prussia, in the name of the German Empire. Mr. Joseph Dorodowitz, his ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to His Catholic Majesty, and Christian Count of Tadenbach, his envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to His very faithful Majesty, His Majesty the Emperor of Austria, King of Bohemia, King of Hungary, his ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to His Catholic Majesty, or his Catholic Majesty, and Leopold Count Balesta, can't pronounce that, his envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary to Morocco, His Majesty the King of the Belgians. Who else? Who else is in here? Let's see. King of Spain. So Spain is in there, right? So all these signatory powers. This is half the world, right? So all these signatory powers were found in due form. Their powers were found in due form. How do we see that? Where do we see that at? Okay, we'll continue. We'll go straight to it. Right here. Who furnished with full powers. So all the signatory powers that were mentioned were furnished with full powers. Full powers. Well, how were they furnished with full powers? Well, they had a ratified, deposited, and promulgated constitution, and they enact laws. There are competent authorities, competent states, competent countries with the three branches of government, right? And again, a ratified constitution. That's why they were found or furnished with full powers. Who furnished, and so therefore, all of our Moroccan states that's coming online, we are also furnished with full powers, just as well as these signatory powers are. They're no different than us. The only difference is that we're just coming back into statehood, and we're just starting to check these boxes again after the 250-year fall that we've been experiencing, which was divine, by the way, because we needed to experience poverty. We needed to experience oppression. We needed to experience the cares of the world, so that when we take back control of the empire, we would treat humanity accordingly. Without experiencing the cares of the world, we won't have the proper perspective, not just mental perspective, but spiritual as well as emotional perspective, to uplift fallen humanity. Humanity fell because of us falling and experiencing these ills, right? So now when we come back into power, we must remember those problems to ensure that we don't pass that on to humanity. We must maintain a higher mind. We must remain in our higher self: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, which means we have to let go of all the problems they have caused that's caused us to be in the mindset of hate towards them. We have to let go of it. I'll give you an easy way to do so. Do some history on what you did to them, and maybe you'll feel a little better, right? They just got even with us, and they didn't even do us as bad as we did them. Keep it in mind also that it's not just them. Many of our own who's been a part of this, who furnished with full powers, which were found in good and due form, have in conformity with the program. So they got with the program. You know how you say, like, you need to get with the program. You know that old statement. Your mama might tell you that. Your auntie, boy, you need to get with the program. Okay, well, the Sultan summoned everybody to get with the program, right? In conformity with the program upon which His Sharifian Majesty and the powers have agreed, successfully discussed, and adopted. So they agreed to these terms and conditions. It was successively discussed and adopted. What were those provisions that they agreed to? Well, Chapter 1, a declaration relative to the organization of the police. The police is here because our reform said that they needed to be organized. But then we didn't, as the true heirs of the land, we had our feet kicked up, snoozing. Circle 7 Quran, the Circle 7 Quran, Chapter 1, the very first paragraph states, time never was when man was not. What is that saying? We've always been here. What is that also saying? Well, if we've always been here, that means then that we have always ran governments. We are the founders of civilization, and you cannot establish civilization without governments and running it and operating that civilization. What am I saying? I'll tell you what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we're talking about millennia of governance. And then at some point, we got tired and just gave it all up, starting with the Ottoman Empire. I guess we got tired. We said, we're tired of government. Let them have it. We need a new experience. We've been at the top for too long, since day one. How does it feel to be at the bottom now? Moors, because everyone that's on the line and all the other Moors around, the conscious Moors, you all were, it's like you are who your ancestors were without any contradiction. Is it safe to say that we just kept coming back? I mean, your children are your ancestors. I mean, we keep coming back. We're the same people. We were the same people in the 1700s, the 1600s, the 1800s. We're the same people now. The same sellouts. Okay, let's say Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson, his bloodline is the sellout bloodline from the 1600s. He keeps coming back. All the sellouts keep coming back. So do the righteous ones. Right? That's why you'll find pictures, memes and what have you, with, like, let's say Michael Jordan, that looks just like some pharaoh from back in the BC time frame. Or, I don't know. There's pictures of, like, KRS-One, he looked like an Olmec. Why do Pharrell Williams, there's pictures of him. There's an older figure, I'm not sure who the person is, but he existed in the earlier centuries, looked just like Pharrell, exactly like Pharrell. What is that about? Well, we are the same people. We keep coming back, we keep recycling and keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. Why? Because we got to get this thing together. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we are the people who gave it up back then, in the days, right? So now we continuously keep reincarnated, the cycle of life, and now we're here back again. Now to put it all back together. Islam. That's a declaration of relative to the organization of the police. 2, a regulation concerning the detection and repression of the contraband of arms. So those are the first 2 we went over already. And we already went over the preamble, but it doesn't get old. We have to keep going over the preamble so we can get a clear understanding as to what's really going on and who we really are and who they are really not. 3, we'll be going over 3 and 4 today. 3, an act of concession for a Moroccan state bank. So why do you all have problems with banking, getting loans and all these things when you are supposed to be in charge of the banking? We have to fix this. So essentially, our state governments is actually instituting the true reforms once we get this together. We just got to continue checking the boxes. We got to remain patient, check the boxes, do what we're supposed to. This is why we're going over the Act of Algeciras and all these other treaties, to follow along with what the instructions are that was set forth by the Sultan on our behalf, for us to do what? Take back control of the empire, so that we can then do what? Institute the reforms. 4, a declaration concerning a better return of taxes and the creation of new revenue. And it's not all about the taxes. It's not all about the revenue. It's not all about the money. It's about uplifting fallen humanity. The taxes and the money is to be used for that purpose, to uplift fallen humanity. It can be spread evenly and easily without us even digging into our own pockets. According to the Constitution, it's split 60-40. 60% goes to the state, 40% of all revenue goes to the nationals, split evenly across the board. That means that the 60% that goes to the state can be utilized for the upliftment of fallen humanity and instituting these reforms. So if it's coming out of the 60% that comes into the state, then what happens to the other 40%? Nothing. It stays in your pockets. That's how wealthy we are. We don't even have to touch our pockets in order then to uplift fallen humanity. We get that out of the state, the 60% that comes to the state. So it's not about taxes, it's about uplifting fallen humanity. That's the bottom line. We have to really recognize that. And we are responsible for millions upon millions upon millions of people. If you're talking worldwide, you're talking about, 7 billion people? So the sovereignty and our authority comes with responsibility. What you see the United States doing is what we have to do, but except we have to do it in a fair and equitable manner. Under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Spread the wealth. and not allow the wealth to just to concentrate itself in at the top 1%. They got all the money, and everyone else is struggling, including so-called white people, their own. That's called greed. That's one of the problems that we're dealing with on the land, is greed. Chapter 5, a regulation concerning the customs of the empire and the repression of fraud and smuggling. They put that on, they exercise that on us, right? And then chapter 6, a declaration relative to public services and public works. What are the public services? Your governments, whether it's federal or local. The services that the people use, right? 911, fire department, ambulance, the whole nine. And the public works is your bridges, your streets, the public works, right? The whole empire, which is the great enterprise. And having decided that these different documents might usefully be coordinated in a single instrument, they have united them in a general act composed of the following articles. And this is where we go in. So let's go straight to chapter 2 and begin our reading. Regulated concerning the depression. Okay. Chapter 3, I'm sorry, not chapter 2, chapter 3. Give me 1 second here. Let me find it. Okay. Act of concession for a state bank. Let me increase the fonts a little more. I want y'all to really see this and follow along with me. All right. So it says, Article 31, a bank shall be established in Morocco under the name of what? The State Bank of Morocco. I mean, that's right there. This is our obligation to establish a bank called the State Bank of Morocco in Morocco, to exercise the following specified rights, which are granted to it by His Majesty the Sultan for a period of 40 years to date from the ratification of this act. Article 32, the bank, which will have power to carry on all transactions and entering into the operations of a bank, shall have the exclusive privilege of issuing notes to bearer, payable on presentation and receivable for public dues throughout what empire? This is the Act of Algeciras. Throughout the Moorish Empire, not the Black Empire, not the Moorish American Empire, not the African American Empire, not the Cherokee Empire, not the Autochthonous Empire, not the American Empire, the Moorish Empire. And you'll see it's synonymous with Sharifian Empire and Moroccan Empire. So you say Moroccan Empire, Sharifian Empire, Moorish Empire, it's all the same, semantics. But where is it supposed to be throughout? The Moorish Empire. And we are the Moorish people. And that's the reason why we have to get away from the misconcept about the whole ish thing. There's nothing wrong with ish. Okay, I've proved it before. Let me prove it again. The very first definition, which is the dominant definition of relating to or being chiefly in adjectives indicating nationality or ethnic group. Let go of those old misconcepts, because the concerns that most people have with the ish deals with the other 3, 4, 2, 3 definitions: characteristics of, inclined or liable to, having a touch or trace of, having the approximate age of. Well, that's not an issue that we have, but the issue that we are having with this term is the having a touch or trace of. We're just a piece of, or whatever Moors like to make up yesterday. It's not, it deals with your nationality, i.e. Polish. So why can people from Poland be Polish and we can't be Moorish? How come people from Ireland can be Irish and we can't be Moorish? How come people from Great Britain can be British, but we can't be Moorish? Stop it. Let's stop it. We're Moorish. We are the Moorish people who wear Moorish garbs and Moorish fezzes, and we speak Moorish languages, and we do Moorish things, and we practice Moorish science. We are Moorish, okay? Okay. The bank shall maintain for a period of 2 years to date from its going into operation, cash on hand at least equal to half its notes in circulation, and equal to at least 1/3 after the expiration of said period of 2 years. At least 1/3 of such cash on hand is to be gold bullion or gold coin. Why is it not highlighting it? Gold bullion or gold coin. What does their constitution say about money? Can somebody answer that for me? We get y'all engaged here. Y'all can't just sit there being quiet.
Money is gold and silver.
Makara, what's up, Sayara?
Hey, how you doing, Abdul?
I knew you would have been the one to answer if you was online. Islam. Excuse me. Gold or silver coins. They get that's a mandate that came from the Sultan, why the United States put that in the Constitution. And that's just, and keep it in mind, they also adopted our Constitution anyway. But that's an old concept. So when Moors often ask, well, what about the gold and the silver? Well, it's part of the banking. But within economic liberty without any inequality, there's several boxes within it. So sovereignty and independence has several boxes, about 10 of them. Integrity of domains has several boxes in and of itself, probably about 20 of them. Integrity of domains is ridiculous. It's a lot of work. But we make it easy because a lot of the work has already been done, especially any new state coming online. We can assist you with that process and help you move along faster and catch up faster because a lot of it has already been done. AMPAG being the beacons of light in statehood and international law, they've already burned up all the brain cells to get this thing figured out. All we got to do is come in and jump in the driver's seat and start driving. That's what's called repeatable, duplicatable, and transferable. Right? So everything, the entire process is a system, a plug and play system where you just find your place in that system and operate it. Everything is already in place for you. But it doesn't change the fact that you got to do work, right? But you don't have to burn up any brain cells trying to figure out how to write certain documents. It's already been written for all of us. Article 33, the bank shall, to the exclusion of every other bank or establishment of credit, discharge the duty of disbursing treasure of the empire. To this end, what government? To this end, what government? The Moorish government, not the Moor government. Like trying to take out the ish and say, oh, Moor. Oh, I'm not a Moorish American. I'm an American Moor. Well, you're not American. And you're Moorish. Just not get it. Just why are we scared of this word, Moorish, the ish? As if we're just going to die. As if we're accepting the jurisdiction or what. I don't know what this problem is with the ish. It says Moorish government. This is treaties. Treaties is the supreme law of the land. Well-settled principles. And it doesn't say American government. It doesn't say Aboriginal government or Cherokee government or Pan-African government. To this end, the Moorish government shall take all necessary measures to deposit in the bank proceeds of the customs revenues, exclusive of the part thereof applied to the loan of 1904 and such other revenues as it may designate. I believe the loan that they're referring to is the Spanish loan that Morocco received, or the British loan, one or the other. That's what caused the empire to begin crumbling, these loans. And why would the empire take loans? It's crazy. All right, so with reference to the special tax established in order to carry out certain public works. What government? Not the black government, not the Moorish American government, not the RBG government, not the 5%er government, not the Nation of Islam government, not the UNIA government, not the Negro government. The Moorish government must have the same deposited in the bank, as well as the revenues it may later pledge for its loans, the bank being especially charged with the payments thereon, except, however, in the case of the loan of 1904, which governed by special contract. Article 34, the bank shall be the financial agent of the government, both within and without the empire, in and out the empire. So our banks, it's like the International Bank of Settlements, I believe is what it's called. It's a huge bank. It's like the biggest bank. That one in IMF. Those banks, that's what we were supposed to establish. The International Bank of Settlements, I believe that's in Switzerland, right? The International Monetary Fund, etc. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whoever, whatever. It says the bank shall be the financial agent of the government. What government? The Moorish government. Both within and without the empire. What empire? The Sharifian Empire, the Moroccan Empire, the Moorish Empire. Without prejudice to the government's right to apply to other banking houses or establishments of credits for its public loans. The bank, however, shall enjoy, in regard to such loans, a right of preference, other conditions being equal, over any banking or credit establishment for treasury notes or other short-term notes which the Moorish government, you know, even if you think you're Moorish American, that's fine. But you see in your name in the treaty, it says Moorish government. It doesn't say. It's tough. It's tough to see how is it that this got past us for the past 100 years. Keep in mind, 100 years is equal to what? A whole century. A whole century since the prophet left or transitioned. We have learned, he came to teach us about our divinity, our nationality, etc. So he said that we were Moors. We are the Moorish people. So how is Moors never recognized this document? Aren't we the ales and the bays with our wills and our ways? Aren't the ales and the bays the lawgivers and the law enforcers? But what law are you talking about if you claim to be an enforcer of the law? It cannot be their municipal laws. Why is that? Because we already had laws in place established before they even came into the picture. International law is Moorish science. That's the highest level of jurisprudence. So why are Moors stuck on stupid with their municipal laws and enforcing their constitution and enforcing their UCCs and their... I don't get it. I don't get how come I've been a Moor for 7 years. I've been a Moor my whole life, but I don't know how I came into this Moorish movement 7 years ago and I've never heard of this. It says Moorish government. I just read it several times. It's direct. It's absolutely direct. It's talking about you, Moors. Read it again. For treasury notes or other short-term notes which the Moorish government may wish to negotiate without making it a public issue. The bank shall, however, be charged to the exclusion of every other establishment with negotiating the same for the account of the Moorish government. The same paragraph has Moorish government in there twice. I just read it 2 times, the same paragraph. for treasury notes or other short-term notes which the Moorish government may wish to negotiate without making it a public issue, the bank shall, however, be charged to the exclusion of every other establishment with negotiating the same for the account of the Moorish government, either in Morocco or abroad, inside or outside the empire. That's power. That's power. So why are we? Someone that?
Nah, I was saying as you was reading it, I see how it's gonna take place now. You know what I'm saying, with the integration of the bank.
I'm sorry, brother. Something is up with your line. You sound kind of bad.
Oh, look. Can you hear me now?
Well, I can hear you. It's just that you sound kind of this sound. Go ahead, speak. Let me hear you.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
There you go. There you go. There you go, good brother. Let's talk.
Yeah. Nah, I was saying, like when you was reading it, I know how the integration of the banks, like how it worked now when you just read that.
Mm-hmm. You see it because they're exercising it. They're exercising it. If you replace Morocco with the United States, and it says either in the United States or abroad, except it says Morocco, not the United States, and it says Moorish government, not the American government, or any other government for that matter. Moorish governments. Article 35. The bank shall make advances to the Moroccan government. Okay, so if Moors see that, okay, I could understand Moroccan government going over your head. If you're reading this treaty, I mean, it still shouldn't, because if you read our chapter 47 of the Circle 7 Quran, it says that the Moabites are the founders and the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. So if you are the true possessors of the Moroccan Empire, or the present Moroccan Empire, what would that make us? Moroccans, right? But there's nothing more blatant than Moorish, i.e. Moorish governments. So when you read Moorish government, then you come down and you read Moroccan government, isn't it talking about the same people, the same thing? It's amazing. When you read these things, we've been kept in the dark by the same Moors and fezzes and turbans, the Grand Sheikhy guys, the Grand Governor guys, right? The high level, whoever appointed whatever is in the Moorish Science Temple of America, is the Moorish Science Temple of America who has kept us away from this information. I would say the high level Negro leaders as well, but the biggest culprits are the Moors in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And not everybody, don't get me wrong. They know who they are, we know who they are. They're too far up to be touched. Got their 501c3s, not paying any taxes. Got the United States flag on the left, the dominant side, and the Moorish flag on the right, on the subordinate side, knowing damn well that the Prophet, when he came, he had the Moorish flag flying on the left-hand side, the dominant side, and the United States flag flying on the right-hand side. I mean, the sellout is obvious. The bank shall make advances to the Moroccan government on account current up to 1 million francs, chargeable against treasury receipts. The bank shall likewise open a credit account for the government for the period of 10 years to date from its establishment. Such account not to exceed 2/3 of its initial capital. This credit account shall be distributed over several years and employed primarily for the expenses of establishing and maintaining the bodies of police. So the Moors were supposed to establish and maintain the bodies of police. Takes you back to chapter 1, and then it brings you back to the understanding that we shouldn't have any George Floyds or who else, Michael Brown and whoever else that has been murdered in cold blood in the streets, broad daylight, by the police. Keep in mind, they do it to white people too. organized in conformity to the decisions adopted by the conference. What conference? The Algeciras Conference. So it's organized in conformity to the decisions adopted by the Algeciras Conference. And secondarily, for the expenses of such works of public interest as might not be charged to the special fund as provided for by the following article. The maximum rate for these two advantages will be 7%, bank commission included. And the bank may ask the government to give as secure. Someone say something? Mute your mics.
Islam.
Yes.
Islam, that was actually me. I was speaking to someone.
Oh.
But I do want to chime in on a point that you talked about. The Moors not really accepting the ISH and not understanding that this Moorish government is here. For those, you alluded to the Circle 7, and I'm more or less, I'm in a temple. So
Okay.
I do have the lessons of, the questionnaire. So I would like to go in the questionnaire and take just 3 of them. And one of the questions is 30, 31, and 32. It says, what is the nationality of Ruth? Ruth was a Moabite.
Exactly.
Then it says, what is the modern name for Moabites? Moroccan.
Exactly.
So I don't understand how Moors can be obstinate and not understand the point that we're trying to prove here. And the last one, 31, it says 32. Where's the Moroccan Empire? Northwestern Mexico. And that's right here where we stand. So I don't understand how they can even try to debunk anything when it's clearly stated in our own lessons. And with that, I say peace.
Exactly. You beat me to the punch. And I'm glad you did, because I was going to bring that up. What is the current nationality of the Moabites? Moroccans. Moroccans. So how do we address each other? Islam, Moab, Islam, Moabitis. Islam, Mo is not short for Moor. Mo is short for Moab or Moabite.
Absolutely. And yeah, a lot of brothers think when we're speaking slang when we say that Mo. No, that's short for Moab.
Exactly. Not even Moor, but Moab, the original ancient designation for our people.
Yes.
That's why I said.
Or some would even say Mo is short for Muslim, but no, it's short for Moab.
It's short for Moab, exactly.
Yes.
Period.
And with that, I just say peace. I'm gonna let you go back to your lessons, brother.
Islam, good brother. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for that brilliant interjection. You beat me to the punch, and I'm glad you did. Right?
You, brother.
So I mean, it's in there. And see, here comes the trick bag. You go further to what? Is it question 14 or 15? Why are you Moorish Americans? Because you're descendants of Moroccans born in America. If I'm a descendant of Moroccans and I'm born on Pluto, I would still be Moroccan. How does my nationality change because I was born somewhere else? Keeping in mind that we wasn't born in America. We were naturalized in America. It's a huge difference. We was born in Morocco. It's just that we were naturalized under the jurisdiction of America, the cares of the world. That's why you see the prophet stepping out of the cares of the world. Admiralty law. America stepping onto the rock of salvation, Morocco. I keep saying it, you can't spell rock without Morocco. That was a demonstration of Article 15 of the Act of Algeciras, a nationality clause. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized by a foreign country must choose the entire submissions of the laws of the empire. That's what the prophet was demonstrating on the 101s. The maximum rate for these two advances will be 7%, bank commission included, and the bank may ask the government to give as security an equal amount in treasury notes. If before the expiration of the said term of 10 years, the Moorish government should contract a loan, the bank would have the right to obtain the immediate reimbursement of its advances made in accordance with the second paragraph of the present article. Article 36. I mean, this is how powerful we are with this, man. Article 36, the proceeds of the special tax, Article 33 and 66, shall form a special fund for which the bank shall keep a separate account. Now, these are instructions. Moors were supposed to dissect these instructions and institute them. These are instructions. The proceeds of the special tax, Articles 33 and 66, shall form a special fund for which the bank shall keep a separate account. This fund shall be employed in conformity to the regulations adopted by the conference. This fund shall be employed in conformity to the regulations adopted by this conference. What regulations? The reforms that we just discussed in the preamble. In the case of its insufficiency and chargeable to later receipts, the bank may open a special credit for such fund, the amount of which should not exceed the total of the receipts of the previous year. The conditions of the rate and commission shall be the same as those established by the preceding article for advances to the Treasury on account current. Article 37, the bank shall take such measures as it may deem conducive to a sounder monetary situation in Morocco. They needed a more sound monetary situation because we're coming out of a bank loan situation, right? Whereas the Sultan got a loan from Spain and Great Britain. That's not a sound monetary situation, especially when you're running the whole empire. But that Sultan, he was the heir. He was the next up to the throne when his father passed away, he got killed. So he was a 22-year-old, and he was just a 22-year-old who was, building train stations in the palace and gold-plated cameras. And this was in a book called The Passing of the Sharifian Empire. You guys should go look that book up. And if you're interested, I can send it to you in PDF format. It was a 22-year-old young sultan who basically was causing these monetary situations, these bad monetary situations in Morocco based on these loans. Spanish currency shall continue to be permitted to circulate as legal tender. Right? Does that need to be amended? Perhaps. Right? I don't see why we would be having Spanish currency circulating, but it's not necessarily the sole currency or the only currency, but it's saying that Spanish currency can, it could continue it's permitted to circulate as legal tender. But Spain has backed out of the treaty. So therefore, we don't necessarily have to use the Spanish currency anymore. You see that the United States don't use it, and keep in mind that the United States do enforce the Act of Algeciras. In consequence, the bank shall have the exclusive charge of purchasing precious metals, of striking and melting coins, as well as of all its other monetary operations for the account and profit of who? The Moorish government. Not the Moorish American government, not the American Moor government, not the American government, not the United States government, not no other government, not the Cherokee Nation government, the Moorish government. So as well as of all its other monetary operations for the account and profit of the Moorish government, is to our profit. Article 38, the home office of the bank shall be at Tangier, but it shall establish branches and agencies in the principal cities of Morocco or in any other place it may deem expedient. Article 39, the land necessary for the establishment of the bank, as well as its branches and agencies in Morocco, shall be placed gratuitously at its disposal by the government, and at the expiration of the concession, the government shall retake possession of it and reimburse the bank for the cost of building these establishments. The bank shall further be authorized to purchase such houses and land as it may require for the same purpose. Article 40, the Sharifian government, so they bounce back and forth, the Moorish government, the Sharifian government, right? The Moroccan government. It's the same. It's all the same. We are the Sharifian people. The Sharifian government shall ensure, it's actually a dynasty, by the way, the Sharifian dynasty, right? We have many Moroccan dynasties in the past. The latest one is the Sharifian dynasty. The Sharifian government shall ensure and be responsible for the safety and protection of the bank. That's our responsibility, not the Rothschilds, not Jacob, not the Jews. The Sharifian government is who has that responsibility. It's branches and agencies. Yes, sir.
I want to go back to Article 37, the second part of it. It says, in consequence, the bank shall have the exclusive charge of purchasing precious metals, of striking and melting coins, as well as of other monetary options for the account and profit of the Moorish government. My question is, where are we to get these precious metals from if in 33 Roosevelt took all the gold and silver, or is that to be given back to us?
That is to be given back to us, brother. That's
right.
See, he took it. He didn't take it away. He deposited. He put it away.
Yes,
You know?
and gave us the fiat currency that we use today.
That's exactly so. Right, and so it's our job now to bring. See, they're supposed to do a reposit, not a deposit, but a reposit of our gold bullion, upon what? A proper claim.
That's right.
Through what? Your three branches of government. Who demands it? Consular court, the judicial branch. That's actually in Article 23 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, in which it states the will, if the person dies, the will shall appear, and if the competent party does not appear, then the will shall go into in trust of the hand of a person that's trustworthy or something like that. Right. So right now it's in the hands of someone else.
Yes.
Another person, keeping in mind that in international law, person means a state or organization. So it has to be a worthy person. Who is that worthy person? Not sure. But what we understand, it's potentially or possibly in the Vatican's basement. That's conjecture, though, right? We don't know that for sure.
We don't know. We can only, and like they say, Fort Knox. We can only. It's like you said, we can only make an opinion. Like you say, conjecture.
I brought this up before. Yes, the gold must be redeposited back into our hands upon a proper claim. But it's only going to happen when we make the proper claim. And that proper claim is through your three branches of government. And that's one of many boxes that must be checked in the economic liberty without any inequality principle, the third principle of the triple principle. Islam?
No.
Where was I? I went off too far with this die hard thing.
You had just completed Article 40.
Yeah, I was at 40, yep. The Sharifian government shall ensure and be responsible for the safety and protection of the bank, its branches and agencies. To this end, it shall place an adequate guard at the disposal of each establishment in every city. Article 41, the bank, its branches and agencies shall be exempt from all imposts or dues, ordinary or extraordinary, existing or to be created. What bank? The State Bank of Morocco. Its branches and agencies shall be exempt from all imposts or dues, ordinary or extraordinary, existing or to be created. The same exemption shall be extended to the real estate devoted to its use, and to the certificate.
You should press the button what says dial pad.
What was that?
Or go to my number. Just go to the last number I called from.
Hey, mute your mic, please. Somebody, whoever that is. What was I? The same exemption shall be extended to the real estate devoted to its use, and to the certificates and coupons of its shares and to its notes. The importation and exportation of metals and coins intended for banking operations shall be authorized and exempted from every tax. Article 42. The Sharifian government, here we go again, shall exercise its high supervision over the bank by a high commissioner, whom it shall appoint after a previous agreement with the bank's board of directors. The high commissioner shall have the right to examine into the management of the bank. He shall supervise the issuance of bank notes and shall see that the provisions of the concession are strictly observed. The high commissioner shall sign every note or affix thereto his seal. So when you look, who's the high commissioner now? The Federal Reserve, right? They're doing everything that the treaty says. They really are. You will see their signature or their seal affixed to the dollar. He shall supervise the issuance of banknotes and shall see, the high commissioner shall sign every note or affix thereto his seal. He shall be charged with the supervision of the relation between the bank and the imperial treasury. He shall take no part in the administration or transaction of the banking business, but he shall always have the right to attend the meetings of the censors. The Sharifian government, here we go again. Somebody mute the mic, please. Why do we have a problem with keeping our mics muted? It's like you gotta pay attention and kind of like see if your mic is unmuted because somebody's making some noise in the background. The Sharifian government shall appoint one or two deputy commissioners who shall be especially charged with the supervision of the financial transaction of the treasury with the bank. Article 43. A set of rules defining the relations of the bank and of the Moorish government shall be framed by the special committee provided for in Article 57 and approved by the censors. The bank organized with the Article 44. The bank organized with the approval of the government of His Sharifian Majesty in the form of a corporation shall be governed by the French law relative thereto. Why does it got to be governed by the French law? Because the Moors were acquiescing. You see? You've been acquiescing. We ain't acquiescing anymore. Article 45. Actions instituted in Morocco by the bank shall be brought before the consular court of the defendant or before the jurisdiction of Morocco in accordance with the rules of competence established by who? The Sharifian treaties and firmans. A firman is like a license. That's what a firman is. But look what it says. Let me read that again. Actions instituted in Morocco by the bank shall be brought before the consular court of the defendant or before the jurisdiction of Morocco in accordance with the rules of competence established by the Sharifian treaties, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, Treaty of Madrid, Act of Algeciras, and firmans. Actions instituted in Morocco against the bank shall be brought before a special tribunal consisting of 3 consular magistrates and 2 associates. The diplomatic body shall each year arrange the list of magistrates, associates, and substitutes. The diplomatic body is the government seat of the Moroccan Empire at the time when it was in Tangier. All right, which actually represents the first United Nations or the first concept, because in Tangier, all the signatory powers had what they called a legation. So you had your American legation, your French legation. They all had there was an outpost for all the signatory powers. No different than the way the United Nations is set up. And good brother Jay Bay broke that down on 83 and 82, especially 83, with the timeline that he broke down. This tribunal shall apply to such cases the rules of law, procedure, and competence established by the French legislation. So they're saying that France is competent. That's why they signed a protectorate agreement with France. In commercial matters, appeals from judgments pronounced by this tribunal shall be taken to the Federal Court of Lausanne, whose decision shall be final. Article 46. In case of disputes over the clauses of the concession or litigation arising between the Moorish government and the bank, the difference shall be referred without appeal or recourse to the Federal Court of Lausanne. All disputes arising between the shareholders and the bank in regard to the enforcement of the bylaws or by reason of the corporate business shall likewise be referred without appeal or recourse to the same court. Article 47. The bylaws of the bank shall be framed on the following basis by a special committee provided for in Article 57. They shall be approved by the censors and ratified by the General Assembly of Shareholders. Here go that word, General Assembly of Shareholders. Article 48. The General Constituent Assembly of the corporation shall fix the place where the meetings of the shareholders and the sessions of the board of directors shall be held. The latter, however, shall have the faculty of meeting at any other city if it deems it expedient. The office of the manager of the bank shall be where? At Tangier. That's where the diplomatic body was. And now keep the line. The Kingdom of Morocco as it is right now, today. Article 49, the bank shall be administered by a board of directors consisting of as many members as there are parts in the initial capital. The directors shall have the most extensive powers for the administration and management of the corporation. They shall especially appoint the managers, assistant managers, and members of the commission indicated in Article 54, as well as the managers of branches and agencies. The employees of the company shall be recruited so far as possible from among the citizens, subjects, or proteges. Let me see, who is, what's an example of a subject or protege who operates or runs a bank? Not really sure, but there's a few Black banks out there. And if there are Black banks out there, and knowing that these banks are tied to the Federal Reserve, that means that those guys that own those banks are what? Proteges, because they're under protection. Proteges are high-level individuals, high-level Black people who are subjugated. And everyone else are just regular subjects. But they're also subjects, but their designation would be proteges of the several powers. And look, and it says of the several powers. That's key. Let's go over it again. The employees of the company shall be recruited so far as possible from among the citizens, subjects, or proteges of the several powers. We just went over who the several powers are. That means then that France, Great Britain, Spain, Italy, etc., they have subjugated Moors in their jurisdiction as well, who are all Moroccan Moors. But they would call themselves French. They would call themselves Germans. No different than Moors here call themselves Americans. You see the trick bag that we put ourselves in across Morocco? Wow, this is crazy. But it's gonna come out in due time. The prophet came to unveil all the secrets, and it's finally gonna be unveiled as we in due time, as in our lifetime is going to happen. Next year, probably. Article 50, the directors who shall be appointed by the General Assembly of Shareholders shall be nominated by the group subscribing the capital. The first board shall remain 5 years in office. At the expiration of this period, There shall be a renewal at the rate of 3 members annually. The order of outgoing directors shall be determined by lot. They may be re-elected. On the constitution of the corporation, each subscribing group shall have the right to nominate as many directors as it shall have subscribed entire parts. But such groups shall not be compelled to select candidates of their own nationality. The subscribing groups shall not retain their right of nominating directors when the latter are superseded or re-elected unless they can prove that they still have in their possession at least 1/2 the share conferring that right upon them. In the case where, by reason of these provisions, a subscribing group should be no longer in a position to nominate a director, the General Assembly of Shareholders shall make a direct nomination. Article 51. Each of the following institutions: the Bank of the German Empire, the Bank of England, the Bank of Spain, and the Bank of France. See, these are all signatory powers to the conference. Germany, England, Spain, France. With their government's approval, appoint a censor for the State Bank of Morocco. They're all working together to get this thing fixed. But the main people that were supposed to be in charge of the entire process and oversee the entire process were the Moors, but we acquiesced. So they did everything without our presence. So then we can't get mad. We weren't there. Them and make sure that certain things are being done the correct way, especially as it relates to our benefit, because everything has been done against our benefit. In the case of death or resignation, the institution which had appointed the former incumbent, let me go back. The censors shall remain in office 4 years. The outgoing censors may be reappointed. In the case of death or resignation, the institution which had appointed the former incumbent shall fill the vacancy, but only for the unexpired term of the vacated office. Article 52. The censors who shall exercise their mandate by virtue of this act of the signatory powers shall, in the interest of the latter, see that the bank is efficiently operated and ensure the strict observance of the clauses of the concession and of the statutes. They shall see that the regulations governing the issuance of notes are precisely fulfilled and shall supervise the operations tending to put the monetary situation on a sound basis. But they shall never, under any pretext, interfere in the conduct of business or in the internal administration of the bank. These are instructions, not to just the Moorish governments, but also the signatory powers who are all colonists. Each of the censors shall be empowered to examine at all times the bank accounts and to call for information either from the board of directors or the manager's office with regard to the management of the bank, and attend the meetings of the board of directors, but only in an advisory capacity. The 4 censors shall meet at Tangier in the discharge of their duties at least once every 2 years, at a time to be fixed by them. Other meetings at Tangier or elsewhere may take place in 3 of the censors should demand it, if 3 of the censors shall demand it. The 4 censors shall draw up in common accord an annual report, which shall be annexed to that of the board of directors. The board of directors shall transmit without delay a copy of such report to each of the governments signatory to the act of the conference. So they're supposed to transmit regularly a report to the government of each of the signatory powers. Right? This is the cooperation that's taking place with the Sultan and the colonists in order to establish what? Order, peace, and prosperity. Where? In Morocco. Article 53. The censors, emoluments, and traveling expenses shall be fixed by the Committee on Bylaw. This shall be paid directly by the banks charged with their nomination, and the amount reimbursed to these institutions by the State Bank of Morocco. Article 54, to assist the manager's office, a committee shall be established at Tangier, the members of which shall be chosen by the board of directors without distinction of nationality. In other words, equality across the board. That goes against the fabric of racism, doesn't it? There should be no inequality. Everything must be equal across the board in Morocco, and this is how the treaties have all been established. Equal. That's why it's economic liberty without any inequality. From among the notables residing at Tangier and holding shares of the bank, this committee, which shall be presided over by one of the managers or assistant managers, shall give its advice on questions of discounts and opening of credit accounts. It shall transmit a monthly report on these various subjects to the board of directors. Article 55. The capital of which the amount shall be fixed by the special committee designated in Article 57 shall be not less than 15 million francs, nor more than 20 million francs, and shall be of gold coin, and the shares thereof, of the value of 500 francs each, shall be inscribed with the various gold coinages at a fixed rate of exchange as determined by the bylaws. The said capital may thereafter be increased at one or more times by a decision of the General Assembly of Shareholders. The subscription to the increased capital shall be reserved for all shareholders without distinction of groups in proportion to their individual holdings. Article 56. The initial capital of the bank shall be divided into as many equal parts as there are participants among the powers represented at the conference. So you see, they're sharing the wealth. To this end, each power shall designate a bank, which shall exercise either for itself or for a group of banks the above specified right of subscription, as well as the right of nomination of the directors, as provided in Article 50. Any bank selected as head of a group may, with its government's authorization, be superseded by another bank of the same country. Imagine that. States wishing to avail themselves of their rights of subscription must notify such intention to the royal government of Spain within a period of four weeks from the signature of this act by the representatives of the powers. 2 parts, however, equal to those reserved to each of the subscribing groups, shall be assigned to the consortium of banks, signatory of the contract of June 12, 1904, right? In compensation for the cession which shall be made by the consortium to the State Bank of Morocco, 1, of the right specified in Article 33 of the contract, 2, of the right inscribed in Article 32, paragraph 2 of the contract concerning the available balance of the customs receipts, with the express reservation of the general preferential right to the aggregate proceeds of customs granted to bondholders by Articles 11 of the same contract. Article 57. Within a period of 3 weeks from the time of closing the subscriptions, notified by the royal government of Spain to the powers interested, a special committee composed of delegates appointed by the subscribing groups, as provided in Article 50, for the appointment of directors, shall meet with a view to elaborating the bylaws of the bank. The General Constituent Assembly shall meet 2 months after the ratification of this act. The function of such special committee shall cease upon the organization of the cooperation, or should I say the corporation. The special committee shall fix the place of its meetings Article 58. No modification shall be made in the bylaws except on the notion or motion of the Board of Directors and with the advice and consent of the censors and the Imperial High Commissioner or Commissioner. Such modification must be voted by a 3/4 majority, either present or represented, of the General Assembly of Shareholders. And that's it for Article 3 in regards to the State Bank of Morocco. Do we have any questions before we go on to Article Chapter 4? Any questions, comments, statements? I yield the floor.
Yeah, I was just saying, I see how the Sultan and how he did. It just kind of looked like he just kind of got in debt, and then he got the information that he got, but he had to separate and do it for the states. And that's just what had to go on just to get everything back together, because I guess he was in debt too much. That's what it sounded like.
That's exactly what was going on. That was exactly what was going on. It was a matter, that's why they're talking about instituting reforms to correct the wrongs. It became corrupt. So we had to bring everyone back in line. What was that?
Oh, I was saying I yield the floor.
Islam, good brother. Anyone else?
Islam, brother Beeman here, brother Beeman Day. Question is Moroccan government, Moorish government, Sharifian government, is that also synonymous with Sharia law?
Good question. I don't have an answer for that one, but I would say if I were to guess, I would say yeah. But I would also say no. I'm 50-50 on that answer. I'm not 100%. I can't answer that, good brother. Good question.
Okay. I bring it up because my brother, he is a Grand Sheikh inside the penitentiary, but he's a Grand Sheikh for the past like 7 years in there, and that's something that they use as a reference point for Islamic law, which I'm kind of new to the term Sharifian government, but it sounds a lot like Sharia and Sharifs, sheriffs, and I'm thinking that they're all somewhat tied together. Just to kind of confirm, I never was solidified on him saying, look into Sharifian law.
Somebody's at work?
Screwing the nails here, that's it. But I'll just bring that up because I never really got confirmation if that was the same law or the same governmental stance that we will use as a law, but like I said, Sharifian law, Moroccan law, to me is synonymous, or my understanding seems to be synonymous with Sharia law, which is like a more general term for Islamic law.
Correct. Which it's more than likely it's semantics. It's like how you would say, it's just how you would say Moroccan Empire, Moorish Empire, Sharifian Empire. There's a lot of synonyms. However, you don't see Sharia or Sharia laws or anything or that term at all in the treaties. What you see, however, is Sharifian authorities. So that's an excellent question. And I'm going to have to look that up, even if it's just to make myself approved on that question. Islam, good brother.
Islam.
All right. Is there anyone else? Chapter 4, the declaration concerning a better return of taxes and the creation of new revenues. This is the Moore's favorite article. Chapter 4, Article 59. As soon as the tertib shall have been put into regular operation with regard to Moorish subjects. Keeping in mind, Moorish subjects are Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, or anyone who's subjugated in a foreign country that has treaty relations with the Moroccan Empire or the Moorish Empire. So if any foreign country who has treaty relations with the Moorish Empire, the Negro, blacks, and colors of that jurisdiction are Moorish subjects and proteges. So it says, as soon as the tertib shall have been put into regular operation with regard to Moorish subjects, the representatives of the powers at Tangier shall subject their citizens, subjects, and proteges in the empire to the application thereof. That means Moorish subjects are supposed to pay taxes. Don't we pay all the taxes? You sure do. The representatives of the powers of Tangier shall subject their citizens, subjects, and proteges in the empire to the application thereof. But it is understood that this tax shall not be applied to foreign subjects except A, under the conditions stipulated by the regulation of the diplomatic body at Tangier on November 24th, 1903. B, at places where it shall effectively be collected from Moorish subjects. So Moorish subjects, the taxes are supposed to be collected from Moorish subjects. The consular authorities shall retain a certain percentage of the receipts. So in other words, okay. Your own, as a Negro, black, and colored, who doesn't realize that he's Moroccan, your own Moroccan government can charge you taxes. So the black man will be paying taxes to the Moroccans. They ain't gonna like that at all when they find that out. And guess what they're gonna do? Okay, let me ask y'all a question, and this is a real question. I want y'all to answer it. When the NBC, and can someone mute their mics? It sounds like you guys are back, someone is back there in a shop working, which is good. Get that money, man. So what happens if black people find out that they're supposed to be paying taxes to our Moroccan state government? Can somebody give me that answer? What do you think would happen? What do you think black people will do?
It'll be a riot.
Okay, that's one answer. Who else got another answer?
They will want to nationalize.
There you go.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Peace.
They're gonna say what? Because they don't know no difference. They'll say, okay, so those black people with them funny hats, they don't pay taxes, and we paying taxes for them? Are we the same people? Yeah. What if I became a part of you? Okay, well then you'll nationalize and you'll become a Moroccan. You'll come back into the submission of the laws of the empire. And guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna do it. Interesting scenario that's about to come down the pipeline here real soon. Give it another year. You'll see some stuff taking place on this land that you ain't ever seen before. The consular authorities shall retain a certain percentage of the receipts of the taxes they collect from those subjects. Morris, please mute your mics, whoever it is. I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. The consular authorities shall retain a certain percentage of the receipts of the taxes they collect from those subject to their jurisdiction to cover the cost of tax bills and collection. The rate of such percentage shall be fixed by mutual agreement between the Moxen and the diplomatic body at Tangier. The Moxen is the Moroccan government that in this case was operating on behalf of the Sultan, right? Article 60. In accordance with the right granted by Article 11 of the Madrid Convention, foreigners shall have the right to acquire property throughout the Sharifian Empire. So Article 11 of the Treaty of Madrid gave foreigners the right to acquire property throughout the Sharifian Empire. And His Majesty the Sultan shall issue to his administrative and judicial officers such instructions as may be necessary for them not to refuse the registration of deeds without lawful cause. Subsequent transfers, either by deeds between living parties or by death, shall continue without hindrance. In the ports open to commerce, and within a radius of 10 kilometers around such ports, His Majesty the Sultan, generally and without it being necessary henceforth for being subjects to obtain a special permission for each purchase of property, now grants the consent required by Article 11 of the Madrid Convention. So Article 11 of the Treaty of Madrid gave the foreigners the right to own property. But the Treaty of Madrid gave the foreigners, gave the colonists more power than we wanted them to have. It allowed them to roam free across all of Morocco, erect buildings, and do all the things that they're doing now, to include subjugate us. However, in that same treaty, an open have been given to us the authority and the right to come back into statehood or come back into your proper person. In propria persona sui juris. See, like, you know how Moors say, well, I'm a Moorish American in propria persona sui juris. Try again. You're not in your proper person as a Moorish American, especially as an individual Moorish American without a state who's backing you. You fall under the status of a Moorish subject. You're still a subjugated Moor. You have to prove allegiance to another state who's protecting you. Period. There's no way around it. And so that's what Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid does for us. The same treaty. It gave us a nationality clause that allows us an opportunity to claim our nationality the competent way through our state governments, not through a temple, not through a website, RV Bay publication, etc., not through an organization, not through some club, not through any association or anything of the matter, through your governments and your government only. I would challenge any more, or anybody for that matter, to show me any other national from across planet Earth that got their nationality from a website or a temple or church or organization. I'll be waiting here for years. You won't find it. Koreans get their documents, their passports, their state IDs, their birth certificates from Korea, not the Korean church. Italians get their nationality from Italy, not the Vatican. But when you look at the Vatican and you look at Italy, what are you seeing? The divine and national movement. So they got their church and they got their governments, two separate entities. So what is Italy? The government. What is the government? The other half that wasn't told. He told us the first half, that was the divine side. It was up to us to figure out the other half, which is the national side. That's your government. And together, that's a 1-2 punch. The temples with the governments. Keeping in mind that the Moorish Temple of America, that name gotta change. Moors, question, and I want an answer. If we change the name of Moorish Temple of America, what would we change the name to? What would be more germane? What would be a more suitable name or more proper name for the temple? Considering we taking things back over.
Moorish Temple of Amexem.
Good answer. That not what I was looking for though. You're close.
Islam, why not Moorish Holy Temple of Science?
Well, we'll be reinstituting what the prophet
What-
created.
Islam,
Go ahead.
Islam, what about Moorish Civics Temple of Amexem or of a Moroccan?
You got closer. How about the
Moorish-
Moorish Temple of? Go ahead.
Moorish Science Temple of Morocco.
There you go. This is
So-
not America. This is Morocco. So the Moorish Science Temple of America. I mean, Morocco. The holy, what you said, good brother? You used the same name that the prophet established, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. That can be one too, because it doesn't represent America. The point is to get away from the representation of America, because we're not Americans. So if we say, okay, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, okay, that's good. But what I was actually looking for was the Moorish Science Temple of Morocco. If that makes any sense to everyone, does that make sense to you all?
Perfect sense.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. So it says, At Khazar Il Kabir. Il, our title. At Khazar Il Kabir, Arzila, Azamar, and eventually in other towns of the coast of the interior, the general authorization stated above is likewise granted to foreigners, but only for purchases or purchasers within a radius of 2 kilometers around those towns. So you're limited. Wherever foreigners may have acquired property, they will be permitted to erect buildings in compliance with regulations and usage. They have erected quite a few buildings, skyscrapers and such. And they're not going to want to leave it, because then they did it for nothing. So what's their only other option here? Negotiate with us. Find a common ground. But in the end, they got to pay their taxes. They got to pay their rent. Before authorizing the execution of deeds for transferring property, listen to this, the Qadi, what is the Qadi? The tax deed assessors. The Qadi is the Moorish tax man or the IRS man. That's what the Qadi is. He must satisfy himself of the validity of the title in conformity to the Mohammedan law. Let's read that again. Before authorizing the execution of deeds for transferring property, the Qadi, which is the Moorish tax man, the tax deed assessor, the Moorish form of the IRS, will have to satisfy himself of the validity of the title in conformity to the Mohammedan law. Period. That hasn't been taking place, have it? Nope. Which means they owe a lot for violating that particular provision. The Moxen shall designate in each city and district specified in this article the Qadi who shall have charge of such verification. What is the Moxen? Again, it's the state, the Moorish state, Moroccan government. And we're supposed to designate in each city and district a Qadi who would have a charge of such verifications. You got to verify the deeds before it gets transferred at closing. And they got to pay 2%. He's there to verify that as well. So the transfer of deeds equals a tax. And the Qadi must be there to satisfy himself of the validity of the transfer of the title. That's tax, that's generating tax revenues. That's what we call economic liberty without any inequality, when they actually start paying those taxes. This is why Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, children, you are plainly rich. He didn't get that from out of the air. He didn't gain that understanding by osmosis. He gained that understanding by reading the treaty, the Act of Algeciras of 1906. Prophet was born in 1886. That means he would have been 20. And we know that the Prophet was ahead of his time. So as a 20-year-old, he probably was reading treaties while all the other 20-year-olds were doing whatever they were doing as a 20-year-old. The Prophet was a different breed. There's no way he didn't know about these treaties. He had, the Prophet is full of international the demonstrations that has went over our heads. You brought back the flag. That's an absolute international demonstration. And our nationality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Article 61, with a view to creating new resources for the Moroccan governments, the conference reorganizes in principle that a tax may be established on city buildings. So when you drive around downtown, count those buildings. That's how much taxes they owe. They got to pay taxes on those city buildings. A part of the receipts thus realized shall be set aside for the requirement of municipal street and hygiene, and generally for the expense of improvement and conservation of the cities. Improvement. Morris, please, could you mute your mics, please? Y'all killing me with these open mics. The tax is due. Oh, let me go back. Because that was fascinating. Let's go back. Let us read that again. A part of the receipts thus realized shall be set aside for the requirements of municipal streets and hygiene, and generally for the expense of improvement and conservation of the cities. So when you look around all these major cities, hasn't it not been conserved? The only place that's allowed to go dilapidated and in disrepair is where? The hoods, where the Moorish subjects live. But everywhere else is tip-top shape, grass cut, etc. They have maintained our empire. They've done an excellent job at doing that, actually. And their budget for each city and county, etc., it's ridiculous. And they don't even use it all towards what they're supposed to use it towards. I wonder where all the rest of that money is going. The taxes due from the Moorish or foreign owner without distinction, but the tenant or the holder of the key shall be responsible to who? The Moorish treasury. Not the African treasury, not the black treasury, not the Chickasaw treasury, not the Creek Nation treasury, the Moorish treasury, period. And it certainly don't say the American treasury. Regulations issued jointly by the Sharifian government and the diplomatic body at Tangier shall establish the rate, its method of collection and application, and shall determine the quota of revenue thus created, which shall be devoted to the expense of improvement and conservation of the cities. They said it again. Improvement and conservation of our cities. At Tangier, this quota shall be turned over to the International Sanitary Council, which shall decide as to its use. What's that word? Nutil, N-U-T-I-L. I've never seen that before. Nutil, the creation, and I've read this thing so many times, I don't even remember reading that part. The creation of a municipal organization, Article 62. His Sharifian Majesty having decided in 1901 that the Moorish officials, not the black officials. See, I have to keep making these points clear. We have to recognize that our national identity is in these treaties with as the dominant factor. Article 62, His Sharifian Majesty having decided in 1901 that the Moorish officials who collect the agricultural taxes, okay, I was making a point. We have to see ourselves in there. We are in here. Our national identity is being discussed in a dominant perspective. Subjugated in a subjugated perspective as well, because it deals with Moorish subjects and Moorish proteges as well. But in our proper capacity and our proper person, we would be Moorish officials because we are the governors. Aren't we, bays? What do y'all think, that those titles are just play titles? We're the governors. We are the lawgivers. We are the law writers. That's what Ellen Bay is about. So if we know that Ellen Bay are law enforcers, law writers, those who enact law, why aren't we enacting laws? Enforcing their constitution and their laws is not enacting laws. You're using their laws. We're supposed to enact our own laws through our own governments, through our legislative branch, period. We are the officials of this land. That's why the prophet said we must take our seat in the affairs of men, government. Not the seat at a stadium, not the seat at the movie theaters. Government seats, y'all. His Sharifian Majesty having decided in 1901 that the Moorish officials who collect the agricultural taxes, it is the Moorish officials who are supposed to collect the agricultural taxes. So why Braswell Bay don't tell us about this? Mr. Philadelphia King, subjugated King of Philadelphia, with his United States flag on the left and the Moorish flag on the right. Why isn't he telling us about this? I don't have a problem with the colonists. I have a problem with our own people. The colonists, they're nobodies. As long as we come into our power and demand what should I say? Demand that our laws, our Moroccan laws are respected, they will be good boys and good girls. They're just being belligerent because, I mean, what happens when, I dare you, if you got a 10-year-old, I dare you to leave and go out of town for 6 months and leave that 10-year-old in the house by himself. I dare you. See, if you don't come back, the house got burnt down or something. Then you got to bring that boy, that little girl back in order. Not worried about the colonists. Not even what they done. Because half of everything that they've done was done with the assistance of who? Our own. My problem is our people. The more I read these things, the more I read the Rudder and Sextant that came out in 1980, whatever, spoke about ratifying treaties. That was a mind-blowing read right there. Because it's like, hold up, somebody already knew about ratifying treaties in the Moorish movement. You go back and you look at Hakeem Bey's Moorish paradigm, he talks about the 3 branches of government. Oh my goodness. And sovereignty and independence, by the way. And how we don't need their recognition. We must recognize ourselves. So what is he teaching now? Because the Moorish paradigm was back in the 90s, late 90s. What is he teaching now? Well, I'll tell you what my latest experience. I was on a Zoom call last year, around this time actually, probably October. And he was teaching Moors about how to do commerce on the metaverse. Oh my God. So how you go in the 90s from talking about the 3 branches of government and how we need to establish it for our salvation, now you don't talk about it no more, and instead you talking about some damn metaverse. What's up, man? What's up? What's really going on? Is it really the colonists? Or is it our own? It's our own. That's who I got a problem with. Be careful, Moors. It will be your own in fezzes and turbans who will put you right back into slavery. And damn if they didn't do it. And they did an excellent job. Resolution 75, the thorough and speedy Americanization of these former Moors. The Moorish American Philadelphia, the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia. That's who is responsible for the speedy Americanization of these former Moors. Go back and read Resolution 75 to understand what I'm saying. So the Moorish officials are supposed to collect agricultural taxes. But there is no Moorish officials. So somebody else is collecting the agricultural taxes. Because the Moorish officials were too busy being in acquiescence, whether it be as Negroes, Blacks, and Coloreds, or even as Moorish Americans, telling me that the Moorish Science Temple of America is a state. The good brother Akil made a great point. The state, he made a good point on a great post when he was explaining state as it relates to the Moorish Science Temple of America. So what is the name of the country? Moorish Science Temple of America? Because a state is a nation and a nation is a country. So that means you telling me, Moorish Americans, that the name of your country is Moorish Science Temple of America. The incompetence amongst Moors is real. His Sharifian Majesty having decided in 1901 that the Moorish officials who collect the agricultural taxes should no longer receive either the Sukra or the Mona, the conference is of the opinion that this rule should be made general so far as is possible. Article 63. The Sharifian delegates have stated that Habu property, so what is a Habu property? Any old Moorish building, whether it be a Catholic church, a government building, a courthouse. The White House is a Habu property. The Capitol building where the governors be at, that's a Habu property. Ancient Moorish buildings are Habu properties. Which one of y'all in this line has ever heard the term Habu until now? Until reading the Treaty of the Act of Algeciras. I've never heard the term Habu. Article 63, the Sharifian delegates have stated that Habu property or certain state property, see, state property, notably buildings of the Moxen, occupied at a rental of 6%. So in this jurisdiction, in AMPAG's jurisdiction, who supersedes the state of Georgia, the governor is supposed to pay us 6% for the usage of the Capitol building pursuant to the Act of Algeciras, Article 63. I'm just saying. Because when you take over that, when you reclaim your territory, whether it be Michigan, whether it be Texas, whether it be Indiana, whether it be who, you become the competent authority of that territory, and that state of whatever falls under your jurisdiction. And they must pay taxes to you, and not just like the entire, all corporations within the state of whatever. Because in order for a corporation to be established, they must get what? The license from who? The state, the Secretary of State, the LLC or whatever. Then you in corporation through the Secretary of State. And who's the Secretary of State under? The state of whatever. So when you take over when you reclaim that territory, you're taking control of the corporate state of Georgia and all its sub-corporations, period. And they all got to pay taxes. So they got to pay 6% for the use of the Habu property and are held by persons subject to foreign jurisdiction without regular title, excuse me, or by virtue of contracts subject to revision. The conference, the serious of remedying, you see that word, the serious? You'll find that in the preamble of the Treaty of Fez. The conference, the serious of remedying this state of affairs, charges the diplomatic body at Tangier to solve these two questions equitably, in accord with the special commissioner whom his Sharifian Majesty may be pleased to designate to that effect. Article 64. The conference takes formal note of the proposition formulated by the Sharifian delegates on the subject of taxes to be created on certain trades, industries, and professions. Read it again. The conference takes formal note of the proposition formulated by the Sharifian delegates on the subject of taxes to be created on certain trades, industries, and professions. Creation of new revenue based on the trade, industry, and professions. Children, you are plainly rich, Prophet Noble Jew Ali. If, as the result of the collection of such taxes from Moorish subjects, if, as the result of the collection of such taxes from Moorish subjects, the diplomatic body of Tangier should deem it advisable to extend the same to those under foreign jurisdiction, it is hereby specified that the said tax Article 65. The conference adheres to the proposition proposed by the Moorish delegation to create, with the assistance of the diplomatic body. All right, so let's go. Let's go here. Let's go, y'all. Let's go into A, B, C, D, and E. So Article 65, the conference adheres to the proposition proposed by the Moorish delegation to create, with the assistance of the diplomatic body, a stamp tax on contracts and notarial acts brought before a duels. B, a maximum transfer tax of 2% on sales of real estate. Do a quick research on your own time, y'all. Determine how many closings, real estate transaction closings take place in your jurisdiction, right? And multiply that by 2% and see how much they're supposed to be paying you. I bet you a big smile will come over your face. And that's not just residential properties, that's commercial, industrial, all buildings. C, a statistical and weighing tax of a maximum of 1% ad valorem on merchandise transported by coasting vessels. D, a passport fee to be collected from Moorish subjects. The Moorish subjects got to pay a passport fee, they got to pay taxes. So the Moroccan government gets money, gets taxes from foreigners and Moorish subjects, and fees and other forms of revenue. E, eventually, wharfage and lighthouse dues, the proceeds of which shall be devoted to harbor improvement. Article 66. Merchandise of foreign origin shall temporarily be subject on entry into Morocco to special taxes amounting to what? 2.5% ad valorem. Merchandise of foreign origin shall temporarily be subject on entry into Morocco to special taxes amounting to 2.5% ad valorem. Let that marinate for a second. The whole proceeds of this special tax shall form a special fund, which shall be devoted to the execution of and expenses connected with public works for the development of navigation and the general trade of the Sharifian Empire. The program of works in their order of priority shall be determined jointly by the Sharifian government and the diplomatic body at Tangier. The surveys, estimates, plans, and specifications appertaining thereto shall be made by a competent engineer, appointed by who? The Sharifian government. Not the Negro government, not the Nation of Islam government, not the Hebrew Israelite government, not the Pan-African government, the Sharifian government, jointly with the diplomatic body. This engineer may, if necessary, be assisted by one or more assistant engineers. Their salaries shall be charged to the special fund. The special fund will be deposited with the State Bank of Morocco, which is to keep its accounts. Public contracts shall be awarded in the form and under the general terms prescribed by the regulations that the diplomatic body at Tangier is charged to frame together with the representative of his Sharifian Majesty. The Board of Awards shall consist of one representative of the Sharifian government, of 5 delegates of the diplomatic body, and of the engineer. The award shall be given in favor of the bidder who, in conformity with the specifications, may submit the bid offering the most advantageous general terms. As for the sums yielded by the special tax and collected at the customs houses in the districts specified in Article 103 of the customs regulations, their expenditure will be determined upon by the Moxen with the consent of the neighboring power in accordance with the clauses of this article, Article 67. The conference, without the detriment to the observations offered upon this point, expresses the wish that the export duties export duties on the following merchandise be reduced as follows: chickpeas, 20%, corn, 20%, barley, 50%, wheat, 34%. Children, you are plainly rich. The Holy Prophet. Article 68. His Sharifian Majesty will consent to increase from 6 to 10,000 the number of head of cattle of the bovine species, which each power shall have the right to export from Morocco. So he's given the powers, the signatory powers, the right to export it from Morocco. Such exportation may be effected through any custom house. If by misfortune there should be a scarcity of cattle in any particular district, his Sharifian Majesty shall have the right to temporarily forbid the exportation of cattle through the port or ports of that district. Such measure shall not exceed 2 years, nor shall it be applied at the same time to all the ports of the empire. It is further understood that the preceding provisions do not modify the other conditions for the exportation of cattle as fixed by previous firmans. Firmans are, like I said, like a license, or let's just say a license. The conference expresses the additional wish that a veterinary inspection be organized as soon as possible at the seaports. So there's provisions for veterinarians for the bovine cattle. Like, this is crazy, Morris. Article 69. In accordance with the the previous decisions of His Sharifian Majesty, and notably the decision of September 28, 1901, the transportation is allowed by coasting vessels between all ports of the empire of cereals, grains, vegetables, fruits, eggs, poultry, and in general, of merchandise and animals of every kind, of Moroccan origin or not, except horses, donkeys, and camels. Oh, Lord, look at this. For which a special permit from the Moxen will be necessary. You got to get the permit from the Moxen. And what is the Moxen? Moroccan governments. Come on, man. Why? We're just coming across this information in 2022. 2021, to be exact, with the establishment of AMPAG. Why? I tell you why. Moors, be careful. The owning fezzes and turbans will put you back into slavery. Put you back into slavery how? By omitting and keeping this information from you. This is the other half that wasn't told. But this other half had already been figured out. Again, the Rudder and Sextant book this talked about ratifying treaties back in the 80s. This is a treaty. And also, we already know, according to their Constitution, Article 6, treaty is the supreme law of the land. This is insane. It's like what's up, man? Like, so a 501c3 kickback is more valuable than the empire? You not paying taxes? And, whatever salary they might give you to sell out your own people? Keep us in a state of acquiescence and just forego the whole empire? It's them who need to be adjudicated and put in jail for treason. And also for being complicit in the denationalization of a people, which is genocide and is morally what's that word? I'm sorry. Morally condemnable, according to the Treaty of the Rights of Indigenous People, the preamble. That's what these people are guilty of. Treason and complicit in the mass denationalization of a people. We've got a few names. We know Sharpton and Farrakhan and Jesse Jackson, these types. But I'm really talking about Moors with fezzes and turbans on their damn heads, who has sold us out over a period of 100 years, a whole century since the prophet had passed away, man. Such coasting trade may be carried on by vessels of every nationality without such articles being subjected to payments of the export duties, but subject to the special taxes and regulations relative thereto. Article 70, the rate of sojourn and anchorage dues. So like when you anchor your, like you can't even anchor your ship at our ports without paying taxes. The rate of sojourn and anchorage dues levied on ships in Moorish ports, not American ports. It didn't say American ports. It says Moorish ports. It doesn't say Amaru ports or any other form of corruption of the word America. I don't care if you want to say it's an ancient corruption, whatever. It says Moorish. Doesn't say Amaru. It doesn't say any of that. It doesn't say Turtle Island. Or doesn't say land of milk and honey ports. It says Moorish ports being fixed by treaties with certain powers. The said powers are disposed to consent to a revision of such dues. The diplomatic body at Tangier is therefore charged to effect an agreement with the Moxen on the terms of such revision, which cannot, however, take place until after the improvement of the ports. Article 71, the customs storage dues shall be collected in all Moorish ports, not Indian ports. And I damn sure didn't say American ports. I said the customs storage dues shall be collected in all Moorish ports where there are adequate warehouses in conformity to the regulations existing or to be adopted in regard thereto by the government of His Sharifian Majesty in accord with the diplomatic body at Tangier. All right. Okay. So Moors be going to jail with trumped up charges behind marijuana. A dime bag will get you a life in prison, seems like. Marijuana and opium. Well, what does Article 72 say? Opium and kif. Kif is marijuana. Opium and kif will continue to be a monopoly of the Sharifian government. I'll let that sink in for a second. So you mean to tell me that we're going to jail for marijuana when we have the authority over the monopoly of it? This is why my focus and our subjugation is placed on Moors, not the colonists, not no white man. The black man with a fez on his head and the United States flag on the left and the Moorish flag on the right. The 50C3 Negroes. They need to be jailed. They need to be placed under the jail where Malachi York is, 60 feet below ground. In population with all the other inmates. No isolation. None of those Bill Cosby, nice jail isolation. No. You need to go over there where all the Mexicans at. With all the Salvadorian, the MS-13s at, and the Crips and the Bloods. You need to be with them. And you need to protect your butt-ginity. You need to be in there constantly fighting for the protections of your butt-ginity. We got people going to jail over kif, marijuana, when we have the authority over the monopoly of it. But a nice 501c3 kickback, a nice salary, a nice house, etc., was more important to you than the reclamation of the vast estate, the upliftment of fallen humanity.
Islam.
Islam, brother.
Just a short comment, not to go too far off, but I believe just that one line alone in Article 2, Article 72, that's a lot to convince a lot of people alone. Sadly, but still, just that one line alone can convince a lot of the so-called Black people, a lot of things about us when it comes to the benefits of the government. That's it.
Exactly. I agree. But then it sounds good, but in practice, based on my experience, it still don't work. Because I have presented this to other Negroes. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Did you see what was on Netflix last night? That's how they just switched the subject. They go talking about the game last night, how LeBron did whatever. But you would think that. Now, obviously, I didn't talk to every Black person, but the very few that I have is like, they ain't trying to hear that, even with that. They might be impressed. Like, oh, that's really, oh, wow. Did you saw the game last night? Opium and kif will continue to be a monopoly of the Sharifian government. The importation of opium, specially intended for medicinal purposes, will, however, be allowed by special permit issued by who? The Moxen, at the request of the legation. So the French legation may request the Moxen for the special permit to import opium for medicinal purposes. That's what that's saying. The physician or apothecary importing the same. The Sharifian government and the diplomatic body shall jointly determine the maximum quantity which may be thus introduced. Now that's regulations. Because you can't just bring, I mean, okay, so we'll give you the permission based on a special permit to bring in opium for medicinal purposes only. And even then, we still determine the maximum quantity which may be introduced. Moors, we got power. But the Grand Shiki guys and the Supreme Grand Governor guys have kept our power away from us. The Moorish American Society of Philadelphia, Moors. The United States flag on the left and the Moorish flag on the right, Moors. Those are the sellouts. The easiest telltale that a temple is sold out is if you see the United States flag on the left and the Moorish flag on the right. You see that, go running. First ask questions, then go running. Because you're dealing with a sold out temple and a sold out Grand Sheik. I'm not talking about the members. I'm talking about the leadership. The members are in fellowship, many of which wouldn't even read this if you tell them. Because it's all about the Circle 7 Quran and the church part of it. Singing Moorish hymns and gospel songs in the temples. With pubes and pulpits. Pulpit. Pull you into the pit. I've seen it. With my own two eyes in person, as well as even on Facebook, these live sessions that they'll have. He's standing at the pulpit with a rag, sweating bricks, constantly wiping his forehead because he out there just hooping and hollering, just like Reverend Porkchop would. No difference, except Jesus became Noble Jew Ali. It's ridiculous. Article 73. The representatives of the powers I'm more than willing to negotiate, enter into negotiations and diplomatic relations with the colonists. I got no problem with the colonists. I got a problem with Moors. I have no form of negotiation and mediation and diplomatic anything with them. Jail time. For the atrocities you committed against your people. It's no wonder why it took me until I was 35 before I even found out about the name Noble Jew Ali, far less Moorish Science Temple of America in general. Why isn't there a push, a campaign for all melanated people in Morocco, commonly known as America, to know about the Moorish Science Temple of America and Prophet Noble Jew Ali? Why are they so passive? Why are they so passive? It should have taken me, if there were active Moors, as the prophet said, active and not passive, if Moors were active, if the Moorish Science Temple of America was active as they were supposed to be, I would have known about Prophet Noble Jew Ali coming out of the womb. But no, it took me till I was like 35 before I found out about the good prophet. These guys, I don't even call them Moors, these Negroes ought to be ashamed of themselves. And they deserve jail time. Article 73, the representative of the powers take note of the Sharifian government intention to extend to tobacco of all kinds, the monopoly existing in the case of snuff. They reserve the right of their citizens, subjects, and proteges to be duly indemnified for damages which the said monopoly may cause such of them as carry on a tobacco business established under the present system. So they control the monopoly. Don't they control tobacco as well? They control everything based on the Act of Algeciras. In case no amicable agreement shall be reached, the damages shall be fixed by experts designated by the Moxin and the diplomatic body in conformity with the provisions governing exportation for public purposes. Article 74. The principle of awarding contracts on bids without preference of nationality shall be applied to the farming of the monopoly of opium and kif. The principle of awarding contracts on bids without preference of nationality, equality, no racism, no inequality, no preference of nationality. The principles of awarding contracts on bids without preference of nationality shall be applied to the farming of the monopoly of opium and kif. The same rule would apply to the tobacco monopoly if created. What else you want me to say? Article 75. If the occasion should arise to modify any of the provisions of this declaration, the Moxin and the diplomatic body at Tangier shall reach an understanding on this point. And then finally, Article 76. In all the cases provided for by the present declaration where the diplomatic body shall be called upon to intervene, except in what concerns Article 64, 70, and 75, the decision shall be reached by a majority of the votes. And that concludes Chapter 4, which is the creation of taxes, or the taxes, what is it called? I don't even remember these titles. It is called, where is it? Right here. So Article 4, but oh my goodness, where is it? A declaration concerning a better return of taxes and the creation of new revenues. And that concludes chapters 3 and 4 for the day, for this class. I yield the floor for any questions, concerns, comments as it relates to what we've read and what we've went through thus far. I yield the floor.
Yeah, it was everything I needed. Just going over it. I got like a good insight, like what to look for, what to study, what information. So yeah, it was real eye-opening.
Islam, it is very eye-opening. I mean, did you know that you had the authority to monopolize marijuana, weed, gas, loud, whatever you want to call it? Did you know that?
Well, yeah, I was on the website and I seen I guess what that was AMPAG. They had I guess they enacted that law and I kind of read it, so I kind of understood that. But so look, most of these things that they seeing going on is just gonna go through legislation and enact it, and then it'll be imposing, the laws or regulations.
Islam. So you guys, what's your position of you're the Qadi, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So you would, your legislation is based in tax revenues, right? Excuse me. However, once you accede to the Act of Algeciras, you gotta write legislation for each chapter. Really, each article, but at least each chapter. That legislation becomes your internal laws of your state, which then makes it's made manifest now for you to operate with that authority. It has to start first with your legislation. That is the integrity of your domains. That's the second box. That's the second triple principle. And within that second box, or that second principle, there's several boxes. Enacting legislation is one of them. But before you enact legislation, to make it made manifest within your state, you first must accede to that treaty, right? And that's the way you exercise those powers is through legislation. You have to write legislation in accordance with it, and it's just simply a matter of utilizing the same language, but you just because the language as you see is pretty generic. It's not specifying anyone except for the Moorish governments, right? So when you write your legislation, you would specify to your actual nationals as the people are concerned, as well as the government, etc. And even to include identifying, not keeping it general, but identifying the United States and the corporate state jurisdiction that you have taken over. And that's how you basically enact that legislation. So you all will learn how to do that in due time. First, you must accede to the treaty. We'll get to the point where we'll start showing you how to write the legislation or convert international law or Moroccan laws into your internal legislation for your state as your laws.
Islam. And I was gonna give somebody like a tip when y'all reading this law, like he was saying it about the synonymous names, but when they write it in code, like they'll be talking about like a place, or they be talking about a people, and they be talking about the character. But like you say, Tangier and all those words, you just can remember you one word and just start replacing them. The more you start reading law, you'll read it like you do commonly in your mind.
Right. That's right. Excellent point, good brother. Excellent point. Because at the end of the day, you must understand that the diplomatic body in Tangiers is no longer in existence. That region of the Moroccan Empire has become a modern state called the Kingdom of Morocco, right? And there is no longer a sultan. So the diplomatic body and the legations in Tangier are no longer in existence. So now we operate slightly different in today's age. The current diplomatic body would be the United Nations, right? Since we acquiesced, we were the ones who were supposed to establish these governmental organizations to establish or to institute the reforms in Morocco for the peace and prosperity and order of Morocco. So that's so being as though we acquiesced, France took over and established these things, as well as the protections of Moroccan subjects. I mean, that was part of their responsibilities, is to protect us. Let's use Jay Bay as an example. Jay Bay, he was in what's called mergers and acquisition. He'll say it. This is how you learn contract law. And guess who trained him up? White people. And he was well-to-do. When you partake in mergers and acquisitions, that means that you're buying and selling, well, you're assisting your clients in buying and selling businesses, their businesses. So, you assist someone in buying a business, or you assist someone in selling their business. That's mergers and acquisition. It's like a business broker. You can get into, we got a brother in our state, he's working on purchasing apartment properties, apartment buildings. If you end up with a 300 unit building, for example, his net worth just at closing, his net worth is now however much that building is worth. Let's say it's worth 5 million. Okay, so your net worth is 5 million. With all the residual income that's coming in from the monthly rent, the cash flow that's being spun off from the building. These are cash cow buildings, right? Any black man can get into that. Are we subjugated? Do we have a subjugated status? Yes. But are we slaves? No. Has the opportunity taken away from us? No. We have opportunities. Anyone on this line can become a millionaire with the right business and the right work ethic. That's the protectorate. That's the protections. There's a limit to what they would do to us. if they were so evil and so bad, they could lock us down, shut us down 100%. Ain't no Jay-Z, ain't no Michael Jordan, ain't no none of that. Keeping in mind that most of all the inventions that had taken place in the United States were created by Black people. Yes, they did get cheated with the patent and all that, and they don't get the credit. But that was based in ignorance, because see, if you knew better, you would have established your business a certain way to where you couldn't get cheated and robbed like that. We're not as bad as we think we are. Do we experience police brutality? I guess. I mean, they show it on TV enough. But in my personal experience, I've never seen anyone, and I don't know anyone. I mean, I personally did get my ribs broken by a cop. I ain't gonna lie to you. It wasn't based on a traffic stop though. It was
George,
another. Go ahead,
George,
brother.
George Floyd, my childhood friend. I grew up with him.
Oh, damn. Islam, sorry to hear that. You know? And that, so you got those, but I mean, they also beat up and kill white people. If you get pulled over and you hand over your an active license, registration, and insurance, they'll write you a ticket or give you a warning, either or, depending on the circumstances, and let you be on your way. They don't just automatically just start beating up on you. Like, we got a bad misconception as to what's going on in the so-called oppression that we're dealing with. I'm not saying that that we're not under oppression, but anybody in the hood can raise up out of that circumstance and become a millionaire. It has happened before. So these are well-settled principles. Why? Because it has happened before. The only ones who stay stuck in the projects and the hoods and stuff are those who want to remain there. You can get out and get something. Don't let the days of your life pass by. Anyone can get out and get something. Don't spend all your time trying to get high. What you want me to say? That's what the real deal is. So let's stop looking at these people like they some whatever blue-eyed devils, as Malcolm X would have called them. You better look at your own people. Our understanding as to who is subjugating us is misguided. Again, I'm not saying that these people are innocent, but what I am saying is that our own people are even more guilty. Because if these men and women would have stood their square against this colonist, we would have solved this problem a long time ago. It's just festering and carrying on because our people are the ones who is assisting the colonists in keeping us in these circumstances. And what other circumstances? In dark, from understanding and knowing who you are as a people and what your obligations are as a people as it relates to the treaties. But it doesn't change the fact that you can get straight A's and be a well-studied student and possibly end up in Harvard, right? And get some law degree and come out of there and earn $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Absolutely beat poverty. We all have the opportunity to beat poverty. We just don't necessarily exercise or take advantage of those opportunities. So if you don't take advantage of the opportunities, that wouldn't be the white man's fault. It wouldn't even be the sold out black man's fault. It's your fault. But at the end of the day, I guess my real point of the point that I'm trying to make here is that we have to clearly understand who the real enemy is here. It's nonsensical for us to look at the white man as our enemy or some formidable foe when he himself learned everything from us. So if we are the master teachers of the planet, if we are the mothers and fathers of civilization, why are we worried about the young white man? They're young. They're just coming into power based on the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. They just coming into power. How long has this planet been around? They just coming into power. The whole time we were the ones in power, the whole time. We are so misguided. Our concepts are wrong. It's our people that we got to look at and examine. We got to press them. It's them who need to be pressed and dealt with. The white man, he ain't gonna do nothing but conform. All we got to do is make a proper claim. We may have to take them to the ICJ because they, initially they're gonna, they're gonna pretend and act as if they don't know what we're talking about. Then we have to take them to the ICJ and then, go from there. But eventually they will submit to Moroccan law because the right that was given to them to erect buildings in Morocco is so important to them. It would be crazy for them to leave and just leave it here. They're not going to want to leave and leave it here, especially even worse when they don't even have nowhere to go. They are attached to us, attached. You find that in the letter from George Washington to the Sultan. The attachment to your empire. They're attached to us. They're like, they have nowhere to go. If we were to kick them out, we would be violating human rights principles, which is called just cogence in international law. Why am I saying that? Because they don't have nowhere to go. They'll end up being stateless. They are here under a protectorate. We are protecting them. Oh, so we were supposed to be doing. The tables turned on us because of the Negroes, and now we're the ones under protection. But they're here under a protected status. So the only point that I'm trying to impress upon you all is we got to look at we got to correct our concepts and our mindset as to who is the real enemy, who is the true oppressor. And that will be the people that look just like you and me. I yield the floor for more comments before we close out.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question about the word duels. What do that mean?
AD, what did I do? AD, I don't know. Good question, but guess what? Let's do this. Let's look up a duel. Probably should have looked it up before the class. Or in general, really. All right. I looked up Tertib. I looked up others. It's funny you didn't ask about Tertib. It's ADOUL, right?
Yes.
Okay. Get here. Let's pick up a surface level search. So it says an ADEL, ADEL, or a dual, ADOUL, is a type of public official in Morocco. In Morocco, an ADEL is a type of public official in Morocco. It says ADELs act in pairs to record marriages. They may also draft contracts, prenuptial agreements, divorce settlements, and adjudicate testaments. Their office is comparable to that of a civil law notary. Women were first allowed to become ADELs in 2018. That's what an ADEL is a type of public official in Morocco. That's a surface search. That's just Wikipedia. If we go deeper, we'll find even more. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Islam.
Hello from the other side.
Islam. So you see, okay, so now let's look at this. Why is this thing not popping up when I hover over it? I don't know. This thing is weird. So you see this word right here? Tertib? Why ain't nobody asked what that means?
Yes, I was gonna ask that question next.
I was gonna look it up.
That's an agricultural tax. Let's look at it. That's an agricultural tax. Tertib. We've looked it up before. This isn't the first time I'm going over the Act of Algeciras, but it's the first time I'll probably be able to get all the articles in, because that wasn't. So here, when France used the public debt to colonize Morocco. Look at what pulled up. When France used the public debt to colonize Morocco. Where is it? There it is right here. So it says it was in this context of structural weakness that recent political events triggered a crisis. In 1900, the regent Ba Ahmed died, and his nephew, the young Abdelaziz, 22, inherited the throne. Remember we was talking about that earlier? The young Abdelaziz, 22, inherited the throne to become putty in the hands of foreign powers. His lavish and extravagant spending, a railroad inside the Meknes Palace, automobiles, solid gold cameras, encouraged by the foreign missions to his court, widened the trade deficit and substantiated accusations of godlessness aimed at the young monarch. Worse still, the reform of the tertib, taxation. You see that? Tertib is a taxation carried out at the behest of British envoy Arthur Nicholson, disorganized the fiscal system. The scraping of traditional Quranic taxes and introduction of a new tax based on planted acreage aroused widespread opposition. Suddenly, the Sultan found himself unable to collect any direct taxes from his subjects. You see, this is part of the reasons why the what do you call it? The empire started crumbling. Look at what this says. In the medium term, Morocco suffered from a trade deficit that had become structural since the end of the 1870s. The ensuing massive exports of capital stoked an unending currency crisis, constantly soliciting a flow of incoming capital. This deficit is a direct result of Morocco's opening its borders to trade beginning in 1856, when a treaty was signed with Great Britain. The extension of the right of protection, which is the Madrid Convention, exemption from all taxes, which Europeans generally were privileged to enjoy, drain Moroccan fiscal resources and undermine the Sultan's authority. But I've read somewhere else, I gotta look at another. It's telling you that the tertib is taxation, but then it's also, this is a good article that you guys should probably look up. Just type in tertib and click the first option. You see how it's talking about Moxin in this? In 1904, loan did not improve Morocco's financial position, quite the opposite. Of the 62.5 million francs lent to Morocco, the Sultan received only 10.5 million, the rest having gone to repay previous loans and to cover issue expenses. Before the year was out, the Moxin was already running short of liquid assets. Thus, the 1904 loan initiated a decade of financial distress, in the course of which the Sharifian Empire they spelt it different here with a C, had no choice but to contract new loans to repay the previous ones. In 1910, a new consolidation loan amounting to 101 million francs completed the country's financial asphyxiation. See, like, this is just general information. Now, in spite of this vicious circle, Moroccan indebtedness, calculated by the usual criteria, was remarkably modest. The debt, as measured by the usual indicators, public debt, GDP, CBOX, was only 10% in 1904 and 35% in 1912. These low figures reveal the nature of this indebtedness. For while Morocco produced enough wealth for the weight of the debt not to appear overwhelming, the central government had no access to that wealth. European expansion had in fact broken the fiscal link between the Moxen and its people. Following the disastrous fiscal reform of 1901, Sultan Abdelaziz, accused of being the lackey of Europe, had a general uprising on his hands. Eventually, he was deposed in favor of his brother, Mulai Hafid, but the situation could no longer be reversed. From 1903 to 1912, which is the Treaty of Fez year, 1912. See, between 1903 and 1912, you got the Act of Algeciras and the Treaty of Fez. The debt represented somewhere between 10 to 16 years of tax revenue, of which an average 40% was absorbed each year by the service of the debt. Fascinating stuff. But somewhere I read that it was a agricultural tax, but it's taxation nonetheless. That's what tertib is. This article here, though, is called "When France Used the Public Debt to Colonize Morocco." You ought to look it up. Adam Barb. It was published February 17, 2017. Islam. Let me see something. Somewhere I've seen, I looked it up somewhere, something dealing with agricultural tax. What is the taxation of it? Any other questions?
Islam, yes, I think I'm getting a lot of feedback on my phone, so I'll mute my mic. I put my 2 questions in the chat.
No, you're not getting, no, go ahead and ask us.
Okay, I understand what you were saying about the Moors actually oppressing their own people. My question is, will these Albions be equally punished?
Yeah.
Because I mean, technically the colonists were Moors. You know what I'm saying? That the people that came here initially, 1492 and all of that, they were not necessarily hybrid Europeans, or they were, mulattoes or whatever, but this atrocity that has happened to our communities, our families, even if the hybrid Europeans were only henchmen, and the Moors were their handlers, the justice still need to be prevailed. So, I just wanted to clarify that, regardless of, they shouldn't be getting free.
No, sir, no, ma'am, no, hell, no. They're all gonna get it, right? Okay. But my emphasis is on our own people, though. But they are to be held accountable. They're gonna be sharing jail cells with each other. They'll be held accountable. Because, like you said, colonists, like they would say, colonists doesn't have a face. It's an action. You could be a black. The original colonists were black people. That's how the empire became an empire. A bunch of countries had been colonized and became under the jurisdiction of the empire. So we are the original everything. We are the slave and the master. Right? We are the colonists, the original colonists. Absolutely. Right? And like you said, they were the henchmen. And that still is the case. till today. How do we know that? They tell you in the movie. You haven't seen it, you know. So you said you had two questions. What was up?
The second question was, I noticed that China has bought up a lot of property here on this landmass. Are they considered as Moors as well?
Not the hybrid Chinese, but the melanated Manchurians are, but the melanated Manchurians are is the hybrid Chinese. But let's go back to the Act of Algeciras. Did they really buy property? Well, let's look at this. Let's go to Article 72. No, it wasn't Article 72. It was one of the first few articles. Before authorizing the execution of deeds for transferring property, the Qadi will have to satisfy himself of the validity of the title in conformity to the Mohammedan law. Was there a Qadi present when these Chinese people were buying up the property? The answer to that is no. So they don't own it. They own everything is being owned in fraud at this point because there hasn't been a Qadi in place to satisfy himself of the validity of the title in conformity to the Mohammedan law. You see, like this stuff is not that difficult. Whenever in doubt, refer to the treaty.
I also think how we gonna integrate with them though. You know what I mean? Like the peace and the friendship. And that's another thing I learned about law. It'll speak like it's something as matter of fact, look, this is a perfect example. I was talking to him more, right? And he was like, he was steady trying to, let me see. He was steady trying to convince me that the United States had already relinquished their jurisdiction because in the I can't forget what it is, but it speaks as if he did it.
8222141.
Yeah, so I was trying to explain to him, like in treaty law, when they have a provision or a guideline, it can speak as it's already done because it's already worked out if you do follow the guideline. But he didn't understand that. He was trying to argue me down, say they relinquished the jurisdiction. I was like, okay, well, who had a jurisdiction now? My point.
Exactly. Well, the reason why the language is as if it has happened is only because the bill has already been enacted. So in 1956, Congress came together and they enacted a bill. It's called, you can type it, you can look it up. It's called Public Law 856. Congress enacted a bill saying that the United States will relinquish extraterritorial jurisdiction in Morocco. But there is a but. See, that's the problem. That's the key. That's the part that Moors miss. It is only until the president deems it appropriate to sign that bill. So the bill has been enacted, but it hasn't been signed by the president, which would then make it law. It will only happen after he actually signs it. It hasn't been signed yet. And he will only sign it whenever he finds the time appropriate to do so. And let me ask the Moors on the call, when do you think would be the appropriate time to do so?
When the proper Moorish authorities, competent state is around, are we ready?
There you go. There you go. So now DMT, Maru, AMPAG, New Mecca, right? Unami Buffalo Nation, Allodium, Moroccan, Palladium, Ante, Michigan. These states can demand that Joe Biden or whoever the next president would be, they can demand through consular orders, judicial orders coming from consular court, that the time is now to relinquish your jurisdiction. Now, they won't relinquish it all across Morocco, but they will relinquish it, and they can, and the time is appropriate now to relinquish it in our respective territories. In order for them to relinquish it all across Morocco, this is where the Empire of Morocco must come back online. But Moors, they have that misconcept that they have relinquished it. Okay, so if they relinquished it, then who's the authority? Because as last I heard, they still locking brothers up. So if it ain't the United States locking people up, then who is? This is the incompetence with Moors. Oh, Lord. This is the incompetence with Moors. Everything is based on misconcepts from the old paradigm and old understanding that has been taught to us by our old Moorish teachers, who all they do is just scream out problems but never offer real solutions, competent solutions. Islam, anyone else?
I was gonna say, as far as like the subjects, the more is just in like the neighborhood, I think it's gonna be more so, they still in the third dimension of what they can see. So I guess over time, the more that's involved with the government or the state, and their lives begin to change, and certain views that other Moors who are not a part of the state have, I think like in time, they'll start kind of seeing, because most of them are just so stuck at like, okay, what's gonna happen right now? Or yeah, you say all this or all that, and not really understand the principle of the concept. Like, okay, it's happening around you every day. You're just not aware to see what's going on. But for as like that part over time, as our lives change, and they start getting more and more close with them, the United States, with the laws that they pass, and I think they'll come along like sooner than later.
When you say they will come along, you're referring to our people, the NBCs?
Yes, correct. Like with the mind frame, because this is all mental. So they gotta come from that part to see. Okay, I'm gonna take my mind in, because you're not going to really. You can't just be a functional net or official whatever without understanding like get the new mind frame of what's going on around you.
That's right. And you also mentioned something about how do we cohabitate with these people if we don't kick them off our land? Easy. Are we cohabitating with them now?
No, yeah, I was saying I understood that when you was reading about the bank, because the bank still has them involved. Like in my mind, I was trying to say how that process worked, but it's already provisions for them like to be involved with this process.
Right, Islam. However, I want to take it to a little bit deeper, and not just for you. You brought up the point, but it's for everyone else who may be wondering, right? So currently, we cohabitate with them, right? They next door to us, they across the street from us, they upstairs from us. What is the problem though? What is the difference? Well, they are in charge of all the laws. So how would it look like when we take over? We will be in charge of all the laws. We can still cohabitate, but now you know who's who. We are the ultimate authority, and everyone will know that. And they would have to respect our Moroccan laws. That's how we cohabitate with them. Everyone got to fall into the submission of the laws of the empire, Moroccan laws. Yes, they'll be under the jurisdiction of the United States. They will have to follow the laws of the United States. However, they would still be subject to Moroccan laws. Anyone in Morocco is subject to Moroccan laws ultimately, even though you may be under the jurisdiction of your own foreign country. That foreign country is under the jurisdiction of Morocco, and they can't do anything to supervene the impossibility of our states. And that's just the bottom line. So it's really trading places. Just like the Eddie Murphy movie, we must trade places with them. We got to go from the bottom to the top. And they're not necessarily bring them to the bottom, but they just need to know and understand that that we are the competent authority here. And they must do as our Moroccan laws say they must do. And they must pay their taxes. Simple, nothing hard. And if they don't like it, they can leave, but they ain't got nowhere to go. So guess what they're gonna do? Negotiate to stay. The point is for us to have the ultimate authority. It's a more that you must see out there campaigning for the office of the presidency or the prime minister or whatever the position is in the Moroccan Empire. Not no Joe Biden, not no Trump, not no Bill Clinton, not no George Bush, not none of that. People that look like us, you would see and know and understand is running the government. You would see our faces on the money. That type of stuff. Everything that you see going on right now, flip it around. That's what it's going to look like when we take back control and continue the cohabitation, because we are in contract, in a cohabitating contract, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. We're supposed to be in peace and friendship. In the Treaty of Peace, you would see, where like, let me pull it up. Let me show y'all how serious, how in depth this is, in case you guys haven't really. I keep the Treaty of Peace and Friendship up. Okay, so let's see. Let me see. Let's see. Which one was it? Look at this. If an American citizen shall die in our country, they are the American citizens. So when they claim that the prophet said he's calling on a true American citizens, he ain't talking about us. He's talking about them. They are the American citizens. But I want to show you all something. I want to make a point clear here. Let's see. No vessel shall be detained in port of any presence, whatever. You'll see things in here. Merchants shall not be compelled to buy. Where is it? In case of a war between the parties, that ain't it. Merchants of both countries shall employ only such interpreters. That's not it. The commerce with the United States shall be on the same footing as is the commerce with Spain. This is where they get the most favored clause from, the most favored nation clause. Okay, right here, for example, Article 13. If a ship of war of either party, what are the either parties? Well, there's two parties, Morocco, United States of America. If a ship of war of either party shall pull into a port of the other and salute, it shall be returned from the fort with an equal number of guns, not more or less. So if they come on our ports, they must salute, or we shall salute them, and they must return gunfire, right? Not at us, but like a 21 gun salute type of situation, of equal amount of salutes, no more, no less. But that goes either or, right? Either or. In other words, the same respect we extend to you is the same respect that you must extend to us, and vice versa. There's another one. If any ship of war belonging to the United States shall put into any of our ports, she shall not be examined on any presence, whatever. That's not it. It was one, okay, right here, Article 11. If we shall be at war, okay, we wrote these treaties. These are Moroccan treaties, Moorish treaties that was written by us, period. You can hear it in the language. If we shall be at war with any Christian power, and any of our vessels sail from the ports of the United States, no vessel belonging to the enemy shall follow until 24 hours after the departure of our vessels. And the same regulation shall be observed towards the American vessels. They are the Americans sailing from our ports by their enemies, Moors or Christians. You see that? There's another one. There's another one where it was talking about us being at war with Christians. The United States got to defend us. And if they're at war with any Moors, we got to defend them. Where was it? If any vessel of either party shall put into Where is it? If any more shall bring citizens of the United States or their effects to his majesty, that's not it. Notice there's a lot of words, there's a lot of more in here. If either of the parties shall be at war and shall meet at vessel at sea belonging to the other, it is agreed that if an examination is to be made, it shall be done by sending a boat. That's not it. A signal of pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties by which they are to be known. That's not it either. Okay, I think this is it. If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation, whatever, and take a prize belonging to that nation, no, that's not it. That's not it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation, whatever, the other shall not take a commission from the enemy, nor fight under their colors. Where it's amity and commerce. We declare that both parties have agreed that the treaty, that's not it either. I hate to keep having to find it, but there's an article in here that talks about us being at war with Christians and the United States have to assist us and vice versa. I thought it was Article 10. It's not Article 10 though. But you see what I'm saying? I think I'm making my point here. Just with these few articles that I read, it's all in like manner. We are supposed to respect one another and protect one another. Obviously, we are protecting them, but in exchange for our protection for them, they also got to turn around and protect us. And that's against any Christian power. Merchants shall not be compelled. And that's basically the whole concept in the whole amity and commerce thing. We got to be in amity. We are supposed to be good neighbors. We are supposed to cohabitate in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. This is why the prophet came to tell us that we needed to be in the spirit of love and not hate. Where is it? That ain't it. If a citizen of the United States should kill or wound a Moor, we already know about that one. If an American citizen shall die in our country. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier about the gold. It says, if an American citizen shall die in our country and no will shall appear, the consul shall take possession of his effect. And if there shall be no consul, the effect shall be deposited in the hands of some person worthy of trust until the party shall appear. Somebody might mute your mic, please. It's too much background. It's too much background noise. Should appear who has a right to demand them, but if the heir to the person deceased be present, the property shall be delivered to him without interruption. And if a will shall appear, the property shall descend agreeably to that will as soon as the consul shall declare the validity thereof. All right. So that was that's what I was talking about with the gold, Article 22. It's not 24 and it ain't 25. It's one of these. I'd have to go over it. I don't want to keep going through this. The time is just extending, and we got to get off here in a second so that everyone can have their rest. If a citizen of the United States should kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, you see how it's identifying the parties. Citizen of the United States should kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place, and equal justice shall be rendered. The consul assisting at the trial, and if any delinquent shall make his escape, the consul shall not be answerable for him in any manner whatever. So you see, this is showing equality amongst us, right? Do unto others as you want done to you, right? Amity and commerce. We are supposed to, that's the cohabitating principle in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. I really would like to find that one article. No vessel shall be detained in port on any presence whatever, nor be obligated or obliged to take on board any article without the consent of the commander. That's not it. All goods shall be weighed and examined before they are sent on board. That's not it. Merchants shall not be compelled to buy or sell any kind of goods, but such as they shall think proper. That's not it. It was one dealing with war, going against somebody else, and then them helping us, and we helping, and us helping them. In the case of a war between the parties, the prisoners are not to be made slaves, but to exchange one for another. That's not it. Merchants of both countries shall employ only such interpreters and such other persons to assist them in their business. That's not it. The commerce with the United States shall be on the same footing as is the commerce. That's not it. If a ship of war of either party shall put into a port of the other and salute, we already went over that. If any ship of war belonging to the United States shall pull into any of our ports, she shall not be examined on any presence whatever, even though she should have fugitive slaves on board, nor shall the governor or commander of the place, that's not it. I think it's this one, 11. If we shall be at war with any Christian power, I think it was this one, and any of our vessels sails from the port of the United States, no vessel belonging to the enemy shall follow until 24 hours after the departure of our vessel. And the same regulation shall be observed towards the American vessels sailing from our ports, be their enemies, Moors, or Christians. That was it. That was it. So we gotta, we gotta, we're like, it's a one hand washes the other type of agreement. Right? I'm going to take care of you, you take care of me. When you come into our ports, we salute, however many salutes, you must shoot your cannons in return for that respect, and vice versa. When we pull into your port, you salute, and we shoot however many cannons in that respect. So when people wonder what our cohabitating living arrangements would be like, that's what it would be like. It's like for like. The difference, however, is that we are the landlords and they are the tenants. We are the tax collectors and they are the taxpayers. Period. But with that comes respect, peace, friendship, amity, and commerce amongst us all. Did they violate those principles? Yes. But who's the grown up in the room? Us. Which means we have to be able to let go of it, because they are just, we just view them as belligerent children who don't know what they're doing. We are the competent ones that know better and should know better, because we are the eldest on planet Earth. If all of humanity are brothers and sisters, who are the eldest of them all? Moors. That's why we have a direct relationship with Allah. That's why we are considered the children of God. That's why the meek shall inherit the earth. Because we are the elders. We were placed here first. All the high sciences was given to us first, to then turn around and give it to the other people and uplift, maintain a certain level of erudition on planet Earth. That's what happened when we went into Andalusia in Spain in 711. From 711 to 1492, they were in darkness. That's the Renaissance they be talking about. We came in and brought them public baths, streets, street lights, a bunch of libraries and universities. The University of Salamanca was the first university built in Spain, and it was built by us. That is what we are known for. We are the high priests of Anu, the keepers of the Egyptian mysteries. We are high-level people, high level. That's why for us to remain subjugated to United States laws and not start studying and understanding and raising our degrees to international law is actually nonsensical, because we are an international people. The word Moor is an international word. And so to hold a grudge against the white man, it's like holding a grudge against your child who said, "I hate you, Mom." Well, you know he said it because he's angry. So what, you gonna hold a grudge against him for the rest of his life? He's nothing but 8 years old. He mad because you punished him. Tomorrow he'll say he love you. Tomorrow he would apologize. This is how we got to look at this. I don't have to worry about, man, I ain't worried about these people. And I'm damn sure not worried about what they're gonna do. I'm worried about what is it that we gonna do. Not worried about their use of force. A lot of people question the use of force that might come from them. And, you know, that's nothing. Their military, their police belong to us. And we are supposed to maintain control of the arms of war. We haven't gotten to that yet. I think that's Article 5. No, I think we did go over that. No, we went over that. Yeah, Article 2. Yeah, Article 2. That was the guns, the control of the guns and stuff. Article 2. So right now we're gonna pick up on the next class on chapter. I'm sorry, I meant chapter 2. That was chapter 2, the arms of war, the control of the arms of war. But we'll pick up on chapter 5, a regulation concerning the customs of the empire and the repression of fraud and smuggling. That's an interesting one as well. Any other questions before we close out, or comments, statements? Well, Islam. So this was an excellent class. Wonderful questions you guys had and comments. Good brother from the Qadi from DMT. What was your name, good brother?
Kendon.
Camden.
Kendon.
Keaton?
Kendon. Kendon.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the second time I think. I'm not sure if you came on any other time, but I remember the first time you came on, you had a lot of good stuff to say. I appreciate your presence. Continue coming and please continue coming. I like your perspective. I like your energy, and the brother Cicero as well, and everyone else on the call. Sister Wakita, I'm surprised Sister Makara has been quiet. She said some things, but she didn't say too much. I'm surprised. She must be busy over there, writing up a new constitution or something. But you know, at the end of the day, we can't be concerned about them. The only thing that we need to be concerned about is what it is that we're gonna do. And what we're not gonna do is be belligerent towards them or anyone else, for that matter. There's no reason for it. If we were to, excuse me, behave belligerent against the colonists, all the other countries on planet Earth will realize that, and that is gonna slow up our justice, because they are going to they would end up being an obstacle if we show signs of belligerence, right? We have to show that we are the grown-ups in the room. We have to show that we are the ones in our higher self. Why must we show that? Because that's always been us. This new us is not us. The new us is lower self us. The new us is full of hate, fear, anger, all the exact opposite of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. What's the opposite of love? Hate. What's the opposite of truth? Lies. What's the opposite of peace? War. What's the opposite of freedom? Enslavement, incarceration. What's the opposite of justice? Injustice. And this is how we behave amongst ourselves. We're not just to ourselves. We run around and talk about Black Lives Matter, but Black lives don't matter to Black people. How can I prove it? Okay, try wearing red in a Crip neighborhood and see what happens to you just because of a color. We gangbang. We do all the low-level things against ourselves, against our own. We are selling ourselves out. We are selling out our own. We must rise up into the higher self. This is what the Circle 7 Quran is trying to get us into. That's the mindset that the Circle 7 Quran is trying to bring us into, our higher self. If we were to take over the charter, we're going to end up taking over the world. And if we don't show that we're competent, especially as it relates to diplomatic relations and friendly relations, then the world would be a major block. They're not going to want to accept us into the international community so easily. Why would that be the case? Because they know the power, the raw power of the Moors. We can shut down the whole planet if we wanted to. So if we come in with this belligerent mindset, they are going to come together to try to stop us because they know what's coming next, man. These Moors going to tear everything up. They got all the power to do so. But if we come in the spirit of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, diplomatic relations, negotiations, mitigation, they will accept us because it's like, okay, they are in a competent state because they already know that we are the only ones who can bring back peace on planet Earth. But you can't bring back peace on planet Earth with belligerent behavior. So that's defeating the purpose. It's killing what they think of us, what they think of us as, right? Those who are here to uplift fallen humanity, keeping in mind that many other countries know who Prophet Noble Jew Ali is. And they know that he taught love instead of hate. They know that he taught love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It's incumbent upon us as the noble Moors. That's what the Fez is about. It's about nobility. It's about righteousness. So you can't be noble and righteous if you think that you're going to take over take back Morocco and enslave all the Europeans. Hang them and rope them off in the island somewhere. That's not going to work. The international community won't accept us as easy. It's going to make our battle a whole lot harder. That's why it's so important for each and every one of our state governments to be a peace-loving state in conformity with the charter as it relates to international peace and security. So if the charter is about international peace and security, and the charter is Moroccan law, what would it look like for those same Moroccans to come back in the spirit of war, violence, use of force? It will not work. So we got to shed the hate mentality. We got to shed the fear mentality and come back into our higher self under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam. With that, I close. I enjoyed the call with you all. It went a little bit longer than I expected. It always seems to do so, but it's okay. I enjoyed the conversation nonetheless, and I hope to see you back Wednesday, unless something changes. We'll be going over, on Wednesdays is our open discussion classes. I'll pick a topic, go over it, and then we'll just open up the floor for discussion and comments and questions. Not sure what we'll be discussing, but we will have it Wednesday, I believe, unless something change. That will be at 7:30 Eastern, and I will share the link with everyone. If indeed we do have that class, which we should. Sometimes things get in the way. You know, I do have my own personal life and work and all this kind of stuff. So sometimes it gets in the way. That's why sometimes I don't have it. But we will. I'm instituting certain things in this process to make it to where I can consistently continue to have the classes. Because a lot of people, they get mad at me for not having the classes, which I appreciate because it means that you guys are engaged, which is necessary. So I said enough there. Anyone who may have found value in this video, please share this video. It's a class, but it's just going to be in video form. We will upload it, and I want people to share it. Why? Not because I'm a YouTuber and I need likes and shares and all that. We don't do all that. I just want people to share it. I don't care if you like, I don't care if you subscribe, but I care if you share. Why? Because we need to get this information across Morocco. we need all of our Moors to come to a competent mindset as it relates to international law and statehood so that we can expedite the process of decolonizing and demilitarizing our land. Islam, with that I yield. Peace, love, and light. May the blessings of Allah be upon you all. Islam.
Islam, Emperor. Ashe.
Ashe. Peace and love, everyone.